That was all my comment said. I said I hate you sometimes, and it got taken down for community guidelines. Like, ain't that crazy? What we watching? We watching. Wait, why does it keep saying returning chatter? Why does it say that? We are watching a debate with Saanvi and Hunter Avalone. I get a strike for nudity when I wasn't nude. I've been banned for adult nudity multiple times, even though obviously I've never been nude on TikTok. I'm gonna take off my earring. It's really annoying my ear today. Saanvi will stay consistent in her points, and Hunter will strawman and use terrible analogous examples. Wait, what? That's crazy. Someone on the left is gonna use terrible, analogous examples and use strawmans? What? I never would have thought. I think my next paycheck, if I have money left over, I think I'm gonna get like a rod and then a pole that I can put behind me so that I can have a green screen. I think that's what I'm gonna do for my next paycheck. I get paid next Friday, so hopefully I have enough money left over. Hopefully. I ever got banned on 16 accounts for calling people snowflakes. Yeah, that's why I was being like super PC on TikTok Live, because I literally just got it back today and I don't want to get banned already. $16? I mean, I've been permanently banned like about 16 times. It's 1 a.m. where I'm from. Oh, that means you live in England or the UK at the very least, somewhere around that area. How much money would you like? Bro, what? Topaz.
Hey everybody, tonight we're debating whether or not trans women are women, and we are starting right now with Hunter's opening statement. Thanks so much for being here with us, Hunter. The floor is all yours.
That shit started instantly.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you so much, James, for having me on, and Saanvi, thank you so much for initiating the debate. I think this is going to be really interesting.
Saanvi?
I figured I'd go ahead and just start with giving my definition of a woman, and then I'll kind of just read my general opening. So the definition that I like to use is a woman is someone whose internal perception of themselves aligns with what we culturally view as being feminine. So gender obviously is a social construct. So that means we as humans created expectations, behaviors, and roles that we assign people based on their biology. So we've chosen certain behaviors and roles to be correlated with biology, but many, if not most of these expectations, roles, or behaviors are actually socially constructed. For example, the go-to example is, of course, there's nothing biological about women wearing dresses or men wearing suits. In fact, throughout history, kilts and tunics were all seen as masculine attire, despite tunics being a kind of a dress, and then kilts being really a literal skirt. So this further demonstrates that people with penises don't choose to wear suits because of some genetic or biological reason, but rather we as humans have correlated certain behaviors and expressions with biology. And this is really important because gender is more than just a social construct. It's also a socially constructed form of identity. So the external social construct of masculinity and femininity influence the way that we see ourselves. We collectively agree on certain characteristics we label as masculine or feminine. And in shorter terms, the external social construct of gender influences our internal gender identity.
Trans women are women because of clothing. That's basically what you just said.
External social construct. A good example is something like even like the game of football. It's socially constructed. It exists as a result of human interaction. And even more so, the foundational social construct branches out to socially constructed football teams. And so now, because of this external social construct, I can now have an internal identity as, say, a New York Jets fan or something. I don't ever even have to attend a football game.
It's more than
actually
a social
be a
construct.
fan. Maybe I just like the team because my dad liked it before. There's no way to verify the legitimacy of this identity. And I understand that this analogy might sound a bit unserious, but we respect people's professed identities in other contexts as well. I think the most prevalent example is Christianity. According to Romans, to be a Christian, if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you confess and are saved.
What is this
This
nigga talking
demonstrates
about?
that the internal belief influences external behavior. So similarly, someone might have an internal identity as a woman, and this justifies their external expression. It would be silly to expect someone to, quote, respect your pronouns if you're making no
This is
attempt
painful.
to externally present your internal identity. However, the external presentation is not what holds the weight and ultimately justifies the identity. So to be a Christian, you must have an internal belief. In order to be treated and recognized as a Christian, you must express certain behaviors and characteristics. Ultimately, it's the internal belief that justifies their identity as a Christian. Behaviors are not required, but if you're legitimate in your Christian faith, you will most likely strive to meet certain characteristics. Similarly, if someone is legitimate in their identity as a woman, it's more than likely they'll strive to meet certain external characteristics. And most people end up being comfortable with their internal gender identity.
This nigga's a
but they may
grifter.
not fit into certain social roles all the same, or certain social expectations. So like many gender expectations, of course, another cliche example, right, is the man working, the woman staying home. But yet many women aren't happy as primary caretakers. And women have also brought unique benefits to the workforce and have thrived outside of their gender role. There's also been an increase in
Bro,
stay-at-home
what the
dads, as
fuck
men are
is
also
this?
proving to be successful outside of their gendered expectations.
Saanvi's about to
As
dog
these
walk the
people
shit
been
out this
forced
man.
to uphold elements of the socially constructed gendered expectations, they would suffer from discomfort and mental health issues. So while for some people deviating from socially constructed gendered expectations is enough, others
Does he
have
have a speech
persistent
impediment?
discomfort and mental anguish due to the misalignment between the external gender expectations and the internal gender identity, which leads to dysphoria. So not only do conventional gender expectations seem to be inaccurate, they're also leading to some harm. Now, an adult human female is the commonly cited dictionary definition.
Bruh.
This is the classic definition that aims to uphold the definition of woman as being biological, hence adult human female.
Yes, Catalina, you
However,
are
we
correct.
know that sex is bimodal,
Yeah,
meaning
my
it's not a
ears. Yeah,
rigid binary as previously thought. So it doesn't easily fit into two specific categories. That means that attempting to define woman as fitting a biological criteria leads to actually excluding people who you would otherwise consider women. So maybe we're going to say chromosomes determine gender.
Oh
That's
my
obviously a
God,
biological
bro.
thing.
Literally,
If
the
so,
gametes that
it's
your body is
possible-
built to
excuse me,
produce. It's
how is
so
it possible
simple.
that there's 1 in 15,000 quote girls in Denmark
Phenotypes
who
are
are born
bimodal.
with
Violet
XY
Diva, that is an
chromosomes?
amazing
They're
fucking take.
raised as girls, believe
Amazing
themselves to be
take.
girls, and have primary female sex organs. But if
How long is this
female
opening
includes
statement?
female chromosomes, then the biological definition of woman would currently be excluding people who have female sex characteristics. Furthermore, it's estimated that up to 1.7% of the U.S. population.
Oh, it's
has
not
an intersex
1.7.
trait,
Saanvi,
adding
call
up to
him out.
6
Saanvi,
million
come on, baby.
Americans.
Come on,
If
come
the
on. It's
definition
not
of woman
1.7.
includes
It's
female
not. Come
as
on,
in
call it out.
specific sex characteristics, how many of these characteristics must be met in order to be a real woman? Is it the ability to give birth? What about infertile women?
That's what I'm
Women who went
saying,
through
bro.
menopause?
I mean, it's like
Obviously,
an
they
actual
don't just
debate
cease to be
format. So you
women.
have your opening statements, then
Or women
both the people have their
generally
opening
have
statements, and
essence
they
to
ask
give
each other
birth, but the
questions, right?
biological
But like,
definition still
this is the
allows for
longest
women
opening
who
statement I've
cannot
ever heard
give
in my
birth?
life.
If so, why can't this
0.018.
exception
Hey,
also
that's
extend to trans
W.
women?
Kendrick.
Is it
W.
because perhaps trans women don't have the female sex organs necessary to give birth, thus negating her childbearing essence? Well, 1 in 5,000 women are born in the U.S. without a uterus. That adds up to 1.6 million women in the U.S. who are still women despite lacking the very essence to give birth. One could argue that a woman is simply someone whose biological makeup is geared towards producing large or small gametes. This definition would exclude women who suffer from a condition called Swyer syndrome. These women have fully functioning female sex organs except for ovaries, meaning that although it's rare, There are some women who we
Wait.
still recognize as
Wait.
women, yet they lack the essence
Wait, that's
to
a
give
lie.
birth,
Hold on, he just
and
lied.
their body is not geared towards producing gametes. If the biological definition somehow makes an exception for women with these conditions, then why can't the biological definition make an exception for trans women who've undergone sex reassignment surgery? They don't produce
Wait, he said
gametes,
wait, that
nor
number
do they
that he
have a
said,
womb, yet we all
wait, hold on. That number that he said, 1 in 5,000 women suffer from having no uterus, and that's a million. That's 32,000 women. 1 in 5,000 is 0.0002. That's 32,000 women. That's already a
definition
lie.
would exclude millions of currently recognized women who have intersex traits, cannot give birth, or don't produce female gametes. Finally, even when it comes to the practical side of things, we don't really look at biology to determine if someone is a man or a woman. We look at the way they express themselves and behave. We determine who is a man or who is a woman on the basis of gender. We already do this on our daily lives. So in short, defining a woman on the basis of biology excludes real women from the definition and doesn't serve utility on a day-to-day basis. External social constructs exist and can influence internal identities. The internal identity is ultimately what holds the weight and influences external gendered behavior. Thus, defining a woman based on internal identity allows for a more encompassing definition and serves more utility.
Every definition does not need to be
descriptive.
encompassing.
We make definitions in order to better categorize and understand the world around us. Definitions
Yeah, that's why we
can,
have the
should,
word
and do
trans
change
woman.
as our understanding of certain concepts evolve.
Like if you're a trans woman and you don't want me to
Thank
call
you.
you a man,
Got it.
you a
Thank
man,
you very much for
but
that
like
opening
that's fine,
statement,
but you're
Hunter
still a trans
Avalone.
woman.
And
Like-
it's your first time here, folks, at Modern Day Debate. I'm your host, James. Our goal is to provide a neutral platform so that everybody has their chance to make their case on a level playing
Hunter is
field.
me when I
If you
learn
haven't
new
yet,
words.
Hit that subscribe button as we have many more
Oh,
debates
Catalina,
to come.
when you move to
don't want
Atlanta,
miss them.
you're gonna be my
Hit
Spanish
subscribe
tutor.
right now. And with
Got
that,
it?
we're going to kick it over to Saanvi. Thanks so much. The floor is all yours, Saanvi.
I can screen share.
Catalina, got it?
Whoa.
What is happening?
Okay. So today I'll be arguing that trans women are not women and the case
Yes,
for the
awesome.
truth of this proposition. So right off the bat, two arguments that women are in fact adult human females is firstly, we have adult females for other species. We refer to an adult lion that is a female as a
Saanvi.
lioness and
Okay.
an adult lion that's a male as a lion. It would be quite astounding if we looked at the other species that we study and had terms for adult females there, but not for our own, which is the species that we clearly study the most. So the word woman is likely the best candidate for an adult human female. Another good reason that to think that a woman is an adult human female is because it's the ordinary way that the term is used. The term woman is used. So dictionaries, although they are fallible, they do lend credence to the ordinary way that people use terms. So that's evidence that woman generally refers to adult human females.
She got a whole PowerPoint.
But moving on, a lot of people that in defense of the proposition that trans women are women have presented something known as the social view within the literature. Which is that somebody is a woman if and only if she exhibits the social, cultural, or behavioral traits typically associated with females. This view is pretty common, but the problem with this one, more so, is that if somebody does not exhibit the social, cultural, or behavioral traits typically associated with females, then they would not be women. And this would obviously exclude some trans women, such as butch trans women. It would also exclude punitively people that we would agree that are women, such as cisgendered women. So I think the social view fails on that account.
Okay, Saanvi.
The next view is the self-identification view of gender, which has been more pervasive within mainstream media. Somebody is a woman if and only if she identifies as a woman. Obviously, the problem with this definition is it's viciously circular, it's uninformative, it doesn't tell us what a woman actually is, and there's no trait that you obtain in reality just by identifying it. There's always necessary and sufficient conditions to go through.
What up, Nate?
Another common self-identification view people have been positing in order to avoid the problem of vicious circularity is somebody is a woman if and only if she identifies as female. Such as Cambridge Dictionary recently updated the word woman as to be allowed for this definition. So the problem with this definition is identifying as a female is not a valid identity in that it would be identifying as a biological falsehood. The implications of this view would mean that you can identify as having Down syndrome, for example, which is chromosomal, having certain neurodegenerative disorders. Obviously, you cannot identify as things that aren't in accordance with reality, especially biological reality in this case.
W.
Okay. This view is the gendered brain view. This one has
my
been
God,
becoming
she's
more
breaking
popular
down. She's
among
going after
popular
all this
creators.
shit, boy.
This view, a woman is a woman if and only if she has the brain of a female. Therefore, trans women are women because in their brains, they have the brain structure of a typical female. Obviously, right off the bat, not all trans women have the brain of a female. Not even all cis women have the brain of a female. And to conclude, brain sex does not determine gender, as we know that many homosexual men tend to have brains closer to females than males.
Oh my God! She's going after
false.
every point, every single fucking one of them.
And finally, Hunter's account of gender, which I know he touched on in the opening statement that he has on his YouTube a little bit, but a woman is somebody whose internal perception aligns with what we culturally view as feminine. Clothing,
that would include homosexual men,
voice,
drag
all
queens,
things that we would
then they would all be
generally
women.
consider feminine and more typically associated with female.
That doesn't work either.
There's a couple problems with this view. I think that even under this account of gender, it's still not trans inclusive. Not all trans women are women under this account. Like, for example, as I mentioned earlier, a butch trans woman, or the movement in the trans community as to trans women do not owe you femininity.
Even I haven't touched on that point.
Conforming, who do not adhere to what they do not internally perceive.
Trans, femme, non-binary people are women. But rather, bro, she's coming from angles I ain't even thought of.
Still punitively agree that they are women. So I think this account fails as well. And to kind of conclude
disabled
here,
women
so we can sort of get into the debate, I think that any account that you give of what a woman is still not going to be trans inclusive fully unless you take the self-ID view, which has its own set of cases. But I'll conclude here and let us get started. Thank you, James.
Ooh. You got it. Thank you very much for that opening as well. And
look at his face.
Look at his face. He knows. Modern Day Debate is also available on podcast. All of our live debates end up on the podcast within about 24 hours.
It's
if you haven't yet, pull out your favorite podcast app right now, find Modern Day Debate, and that way you can listen to debates on the go. It's ad-free. Check it out. With that, we're going to go into the open dialogue for about roughly 50 minutes, and then we'll have Q&A at the end in case you have questions. Submit them in the live chat if you at me at Modern Day Debate, or if you put in a super chat, those are on the top of the list.
Across the world.
With that, thanks very much, Hunter and Saanvi. The floor is all yours.
Oh, no.
Sure. So, Saanvi, thank you so much for your opening. It was I really liked it.
Dude, these
you started out
captions
by
are not
talking
doing
about like,
Saanvi any
how we
justice.
have adult females in nature as well, which seems to be, I don't want to say an appeal to nature, because I don't know if you're saying just because it's in nature means this is how we ought do it in our society. But this also seems to be, again, like a mix up between sex and gender. Like, you talked a little bit about some people saying they identify as female. I don't know who says that. I know that sometimes people will use those words interchangeably or differently. For me, at least, I try to be really careful about saying female when I am talking about the biological shit and saying woman when I'm talking about the social gender element. So saying someone identifies as a female, like, I actually would agree with your part of your slideshow there, because that is kind of silly. That doesn't really make any sense.
Right. Yeah, that one was from Cambridge. I think a lot of people have been updating the word woman as to mean somebody with a female gender.
I don't know who uses this. She literally told you that it came from Cambridge Dictionary.
That you touched on, though, I think that were interesting were the critiques of my definition, specifically the one it's culturally relevant. And I think that this is an interesting one, but I don't think this is actually a defeater at all. I will concede this. It is culturally relevant, 100%. Just like I could, well, hold on. Just like I could be a football fan here in America, but if I go to Brazil, I can still be a football fan based on my identity that has been formed based on this social construct here in the US. But what it means to be a football fan here as opposed to in Brazil is different. It's culturally relevant, but it doesn't negate my identity as a football fan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So with that definition, would you mind clarifying your definition of woman and how that would relate to that? Because it seems to be a football fan is somebody who identifies as a football fan, but you do not hold that a woman is just somebody who identifies as one, right?
Yeah, well, it's someone who identifies, has an internal perception that aligns with what we culturally view as being feminine. Yes. So if there's an external view of gender, which obviously we have, like we culturally, collectively agree on, like,
My
this
prediction
type of
came true.
characteristic will be
Terrible
classified as
analogous example.
masculine or
You called it.
feminine, right? So we already have that. People are going to have an internal perception of themselves that is based upon a collection of external, socially constructed gender characteristics, right? And so with that, that's going to form an internal identity.
So would you say if somebody has an internal perception of themselves that more so aligns with what we traditionally view as masculine, that they would then be a man, not a woman?
That's how I would define being a man, yes. And usually
Yes.
I would also go about this as I think that a lot of this is like much more subconscious too. I think that that's why I try to touch on it on my opening about how a good amount of people I don't think really think about gender. I don't think I was one of those people. It never really occurred to me. But yeah, I would define it as such.
Yeah, and I think maybe people don't think about gender, but I do think they think about masculinity and femininity implicitly, like, oh, I dress different, act different than other women around me. So I think this begs the question of, are masculine women women?
Yes, because it's about an internal perception, not an external behavior. I'm glad that you touched on that as well, which is another misunderstanding. This like, oh, it's just a stereotype of what it means to be. Not really. No, it's not wearing a dress and lipstick that makes you a woman. It's like what I said. It's you have an internal identity, but if you identify a certain way, odds are you're going to take steps to, yeah, probably present in ways that we culturally view as being like a gendered expectation or role or behavior associated with being a woman, right?
I think that's what I was touching on, is that you said an internal perception of yourself that you personally align with these feminine or these masculine traits. So hence why if a masculine woman has this perception of herself, like I traditionally like more manly things than I do things typically associated with females, then by your logic, I feel like she would have to be a man.
Well, if you're talking about someone like a butch lesbian, for example,
Yes.
as
Like you
it's
can
a
give that.
weird juxtaposition here because butch lesbian, because of the fact that it's also the lesbian factor, it still is actually on that spectrum of femininity because lesbian being someone who identifies themselves right as a woman who is attracted to other women, usually attracted to other females, I would actually say.
But by your logic,
Wait.
she would just be a straight man at that point, because then
No, she wouldn't, because
the,
she's no, because by being a butch lesbian, she has an internal perception of herself that still aligns with elements that are culturally feminine, because a butch lesbian is still encompassing of femininity to a degree. You're talking about a lesbian who presents in ways that are butch, however, they still perceive themselves and identify themselves as women.
He's just conflated
but just
sexuality
because you
and gender.
identify and perceive yourself as a woman isn't what makes you a woman. It's if you internally perceive that you like these feminine characteristics.
Not like those things, that you have an internal perception of yourselves that aligns more. It's not just like, I like these things. It's not,
that means nothing,
in
bro.
my heart, I like wearing jean jackets, so I guess I'm a man now. No, it's a much more subtle and I would say like internalized sense of self that plays a role here in masculinity and femininity and whatnot. But no, being a butch lesbian, expressing yourself in ways that are butch does not negate the fact that you can still have an internal perception of yourself that can align with elements of femininity.
Take a butch trans woman, for example, the movement within the trans community that trans women, in fact, do not owe you femininity. We can have desires, preferences, thoughts, feelings, all in accordance to what is traditionally viewed as masculine, yet still be women. Like, would you agree then that butch trans women aren't women?
Could you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, like, we know what a butch lesbian is. So there's a movement within the trans community that trans women, in fact, do not owe you femininity. So a butch trans woman is somebody who feels that their internal perception is more masculine, yet their identity as a woman is valid. So would you say like a butch trans woman is not a woman?
How is their identity? They said they don't owe you femininity. Isn't that most likely talking about a expressing conventional views of femininity? This doesn't really play much in with the internal perception. Because if they're identifying themselves as a woman, that is encompassing of having an internal perception that aligns with certain cultural views of femininity. Because again, this is what's This is what's interesting about this. Hold on, please. Because this is what's interesting about this external social construct about gender is that there is contrasting elements of both masculinity and femininity, more so femininity, like the fact that being like the quote unquote bitchy girl boss, right, is a feminine thing, but also being the super nurturing, like trad wife is a feminine thing. But these are arguably opposites. So having certain collections or parts that you identify
I love how
more
he
so,
completely avoided
and then
Saanvi's
presenting
question
differently.
about the butch.
These are two separate things,
trans
having an
woman
internal
thing.
identity versus presentation.
He didn't even address that.
Yeah, so with that being said, so if they have an internal perception of any part of femininity, they could claim to be a woman, or are you saying there's a certain threshold there, or?
Yeah, it would usually be like, I don't know the exact threshold. I'm not going to sit down and be like,
Yeah,
it is exactly,
obviously
you must
it's
like
not
the color pink
mathematical,
and
right?
also
But
want
let's
to wear
say
dress, but like
more
it's still
so if somebody has more
I
so
dislike that gender and
characteristics
gender
aligned with
identity are conflated.
masculinity
Gender
and
identity is
femininity,
not a
that's
real
their
thing.
internal
It's
perception,
not. I don't
they
care what
fall
anyone
under
says.
man
Gender
or woman.
identity is not a real thing.
if they had more characteristics that were masculine, as in
Their
external
internal
characteristics.
perception of their internal perception of like masculinity and femininity was that they have more masculine traits than feminine traits.
They would view themselves as more aligned with cultural views of masculinity, then yes, that would be my definition of a man.
Right, yeah. So under this definition,
Gender is
why I
sociological.
think
Gender
that,
identity is
not all trans women
psychological.
are women still,
Gender is
because
not
a
sociological.
butch
Gender is
woman would be a man
linguistics.
to you.
No, I just,
Like,
did you not remember that I just explained that?
I gotta mute real quick. Yeah, gender is linguistics, right? Gender exists to German is a gendered language, so gender is just like part of that gendered language, right? Gender in the sense of like male and female, gender is literally just
So
one
wait,
of the
hold
two
on.
sexes.
A butch
Yeah.
trans woman
It's not
is
sociological.
somebody who, if they are saying that they are a woman, then that is someone who still has an internal perception of themselves that aligns with some aspect of femininity, but they present in ways that are more butch. This is like the tom girl argument. This is like when people say, are tomboys now actually boys? No, like they're a tomboy because they're recognized as a girl who likes to present or engage in behaviors that are maybe more so associated with masculinity.
Then why? I
Yeah, I
don't
think
understand
this
that.
just,
No, I don't
gives
understand that. I
think
gotta be
you're
real
conflating
quick.
presentation.
I just don't understand that. Acknowledging that, why can't it just be that? Why can't you just be a nigga who likes feminine shit? Why can't you just be a bitch who likes masculine shit? Why the fuck you gotta be, oh, you a man who likes feminine shit, but you think you're a woman? You're a woman. Like, that shit's so stupid. It doesn't make any sense.
identification than feminine identification would allude
Well, you would
to
The
have to go
only
about
difference
determining
between a
how that
tomboy-
comes about, because again,
you can
The
say
only
you're go-
difference
hold on,
between a
because if you're going to
tomboy
say
and
something along the
a
lines
trans
of
boy is one
they
is
more so
confused,
aligned with
one just
masculinity,
likes what they like. That's
they're
what the
still
fucking
professing
difference
to be
is.
a woman, I guess if you want to like make up a scenario in that case, fine. But no, in most cases, I would say someone who is a man is someone whose internal perception aligns with cultural views of masculinity. And if someone is a
Love your
butch
passion, thank you.
trans woman, so yes, they identify as a woman, meaning they still have an internal perception of themselves that aligns with certain cultural views of femininity. Do you
I
not
think-
understand
I
that?
think the
That they can have that but
confusion is,
present differently?
it depends on the case, but if we were to your definition of woman is an internal perception that aligns with what we culturally view as feminine, and then vice versa, masculine for man. So would you say that if somebody has an internal perception of themselves that they more so align with masculine characteristics, and obviously we can't quantify this, we'll just say more, right?
But
then they
no,
would
because okay,
essentially be a man.
sorry to cut you off, but the thing is if they had that, then the assumption would be they would then be identifying as a man. So
But
if
that's not
someone
the
says, I
case.
have an internal perception that aligns with masculinity,
He didn't let her finish
but I'm
because
a
he knows
woman,
where she's
that would
going
be-
and he knows that he
would
can't
not-
answer
that
it.
would be a contradiction.
Okay, so just to clarify though, that a butch trans woman then would not be a woman to you.
No, because by calling
Okay.
themselves a woman, they still obviously have some form of an internal perception that aligns with elements of femininity. Ask
Even if
them,
they're
what is it?
asserting that their internal perception is more masculine.
Are they asserting that their internal perception is more masculine, or that they
Yes.
prefer to present more masculine?
No, that their internal, they typically
Like, and this is what I'm
things,
talking about.
Their desires.
Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, think about it logically. Does anyone think that what the fuck Hunter says makes sense right now? Like, this is the shit that people think makes sense? Like, listen to the fucking hoops he's jumping through right now.
His thoughts. Everything is more so in accordance to what society traditionally views as masculine.
Then that's interesting. Yeah, I would really like an example of that. because
Yeah, I
I
mean,
would
I
be very
cited a
curious.
little bit
But at the
of
end
the
of the day, if you're
literature.
talking about, well, yeah, but if you're talking about somebody who says that they more so fit in these views of cultural views, then that almost sounds like it's a binary or a non-binary individual, somebody who doesn't fit into
Non-binary isn't fucking real. I don't care.
neatly. That's
Cancel me.
almost
I
what
don't
that
care. It's
sounds
not
like.
real.
But I would love to see an example of somebody who says, I internally align with masculinity. I want to present masculine. Why? Wait, if they're presenting masculine, why do they want to be referred to as women?
Yeah, so I think I cited a published paper on this in my presentation, but the idea is more so that cisgendered women, they can internally feel masculine, still call themselves women validly, and everybody putatively agrees that they're masculine, even though they have an internal sense of being, they're women, even though they have an internal sense of being masculine. So the idea is that trans women also don't owe you that.
No, they might not owe you a presentation, but if you're going to have an internal identity, this is how my definition, this is why my definition is internally consistent as well, is because we're talking about
because you can be a masculine woman. What's up, LJ?
And the way that influences an internal perception. Again, what's the example of the person who says that they internally view themselves as masculine, but for some reason want to be called a woman? Because that almost sounds like a straw man. That sounds like something you're making up. Because people who have an internal perception that aligns more so with masculinity, why then would they want to be referred to as a woman?
I cited.
You know what? Hold up. You see what Hunter's doing right now? You know what he's trying to do? He's trying to put logic to this fucking stupid bullshit. That's what Hunter's doing. That was a good question. Now, the answer is why would they? I don't fucking know. We need to shut this shit down because it can only get worse, right? Like, remember when a trans woman is a woman? What is a woman? Anyone who identifies as one. And now, like, if you've noticed, the definition of woman is just getting more and more complex, but they're not fucking saying shit. Like, you're right, Hunter. Why would someone want to do that? I don't fucking know. But the problem is that we don't know about any of this shit. None of it makes sense.
In the Journal of Lesbian Studies, the DOI is in there. Maybe if we could go back, but
I wonder what the live comment section looks like. I can't show it.
She's always a woman, butch lesbian trans woman in the lesbian community. And so I don't think it's just something that's being made up. It's something that's often discussed in the literature.
There is
especially those
I might actually be able to show it, but I have to switch accounts real quick.
View of what gender is. Does that make sense?
Sure. Encompasses no, that more utility and encompasses more people who are women.
Sorry, I gotta switch.
So your definition, do you think that those people, for example, the girls that I referenced that are born in Denmark with male chromosomes, are they just, do you still view them as women or like?
Yeah, I don't think that has any bearing on the proposition, are trans women women? Because even if the biological account of female fails, it still wouldn't prove that trans women are women. It would just prove that we are unconvinced and we need something else. We need a new definition.
Well, sure, we're not just talking about are trans women women here. We're also talking about the actual definition. Well, I understand that's the topic, but we're also talking about the current definition versus a new definition. So you support the current definition, right?
Yeah, it has no bearing on the proposition at hand, right?
I recognize that, but I also,
for the sake of discussion, even grant that, and it still doesn't prove all trans women are women, because we understand that 99.2% of trans individuals do not have an intersex condition and were correctly assigned at birth. So I don't think it would prove anything but the 0.8%.
Well, that's not. Wait, an intersex condition? Yeah, that's sex, not gender. So. Okay.
Well, right. So the burden is still to prove the 99% of trans women, are they women?
Yes, because of the internal perception, which is encompassing, not to mention the fact that we recognize internal perceptions in other aspects of society as well. Since the current definition, here's the thing, is you say that even if your current definition is disproven, it doesn't prove trans women are women. That's true, by the way, 100%. However, in order to further make the point, we need to compare the definition to the current definition. And if we're looking at, there's this definition of which includes trans women being women and serves more utility and is more encompassing, versus the current definition, which is based on biology, doesn't serve utility and excludes people that we would currently view as being women.
So what would you take, like, severely cognitively disabled adult human females to be. Like they lack the parts of the brain, take hydroanencephaly, severe traumatic brain injury, like whatever. They lack the parts of the brain to have that internal reflection of themselves if they align.
Like someone in like a coma, you mean? Like
what was that?
Like someone in a coma? Like a woman in a coma? Like
that could be one thing, but like let's say from birth even, right? Like
right. And so yeah, so they obviously would not have an internal perception of themselves
of anything, of much else at all. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it would be a societal thing, and that in that element, they would probably be a girl or a woman, and it would just be we would look at their genitalia, and then we would have the correlation of the social external properties that we kind of applied there, and then that's that. Just like you might take just like you might take this person to church, and they're not going to have an internal perception or belief system of being a Christian. But what does this prove?
Nothing, that they're not Christian.
Did you name yourself Capone? That
right.
was
so in the case of
good God, they're loud. My favorite uncle, that was his nickname for me.
So they might not have an internal identity.
They cannot, in that case, they cannot be women.
Yeah, they would. You're right. They wouldn't be a woman based on the identification side of things.
So
they would be a female, and then they would be a woman based on the social element. We would probably
they present seemingly logical arguments in their
findings. But do you realize that this is special pleading from the original definition? Because the original definition was a woman is somebody whose internal perception aligns with what we culturally view as feminine. Which, if we're going to throw out this because they don't have that capacity for an internal perception at all, then you would have to be refining the definition to include a second definition, which is a social aspect. But it's still a shift of what the original definition is.
I don't know, but I know that the Earth spins at 1,000 miles per hour on its axis.
Okay, so what's your overall point then here?
You shifted the original definition because the original definition of a woman was somebody whose internal perception aligns with what we culturally view as feminine. And now you're saying even if somebody doesn't have an internal perception of anything at all, they could still be a woman under X definition, which is different from the one that you originally said.
Okay, sure. So they wouldn't be a woman, yes, in the sense of they would not have an internal perception of themselves. If they're cognitively to the ability of not able to like have really a sense of self, then yes, of course. But this is also like saying a Christian is somebody who has an internal belief system. That person might not be a Christian if you take this mentally deficient person to church, but you could still impose those social things. So they might not be a woman, again, based on the standard of an internal identity, but we would probably still, what I'm saying is refer to them as a woman, because we would, in that case, impose these expectations.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So it's that.
Just if they don't have the internal perception, we would still impose it and probably assume it in it.
Okay. So in addition to a woman being somebody with the internal perception of what we view as feminine, a woman is also somebody that we impose female expectations onto, in addition to that.
No, I'm saying we would consider that person a woman.
Why? Because under your definition, they would be agender.
Right. So let me explain here once again. You understand that I have already conceded that gender and sex are correlated,
trying to describe it as a woman. It's like I feel like I'm on the verge of season.
So I recognize that there is an external element of gender.
He legit just conceded. I missed it. It's hard to listen to him. I'm not gonna lie, I'm struggling.
They would fit in the
that was his opening system. His opening statement literally had Christianity.
They have no cognitive ability to form a sense of self. Honestly, you're right. They would be agender. They would not have a gender. But I'm saying we would all the same refer to them as a woman. Not that they actually.
Fine. That's fine.
Not that they. Please, I feel like you think that this is like a gotcha when I'm just trying.
I never said it was a gotcha.
I just
this thing is mad.
We might refer to them as a woman.
Yeah, we might refer to them for the sake of like our simplicity.
Categorize them as that.
Yeah. So, but there's a difference between analytically and pragmatically, right? So pragmatically, we might refer to them as a woman for like social reasons or like for the most utility in treating them or whatnot. But you would agree that analytically, they are agender.
Analytically, academically, yes, agender, yes,
okay.
100%.
So then
just like you might say, like, oh, my child's like a Christian, they love Jesus. They might say,
why do you keep bringing up Christianity?
They don't really have that internal perception. They might not really understand. This doesn't mean that at the end of the day, a Christian is someone who
compensate me. I stop watching Saanvi.
Yeah. Okay. So
like that person wouldn't be a Christian, just the same as that person might not be a woman, but we would still impose those roles and expectations most likely, and also most likely just refer to them as such.
I still think that the more so the problem is under this view, anybody that is severely cognitively disabled or handicapped lacks a gender, analytically at least.
No, so this is the coma argument. You have a little bit of a stronger argument when you're talking about someone who might be born mentally deficient. If you're talking about someone in a coma,
I didn't mention a coma. I said handicapped and disability.
As if they were born with a handicap, or as if they were.
Yeah, like take certain genetic disorders, for example, like severe chromosomal abnormalities that cause a high end of Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I hate how he talks to her. I'm saying
things like that.
He talks like he's like talking down to her. I'm not gonna lie to you.
That threshold of lacking
as a man who talks down to women, this is
self-awareness
disgusting.
would lack a gender.
Just like they would lack any sense of self or identity.
Yeah,
yes.
So they would
lack wait. They would lack a form of identity. So do you understand how identity works? Because you've been asking a lot of questions. I want to ask you some questions now. Do you understand how identity works in relation to the external social constructs?
I think so. Yeah, I think I understand your definition of it.
Right. So do you understand that if somebody is really mentally, cognitively deficient, they're not going to be able to form an identity in regards to really anything?
Yeah. So they would lack a gender is what I'm saying.
Yes. So you're not making a point. You're just reiterating that they would lack a gender. Yes, they would. They wouldn't have an identity. Yeah. They would also lack a sense of self. That doesn't mean a sense of self.
Yo, Calvin, appreciate the follow. Oh, I missed all the other ones. Violet Diva, Isa Howe, and Bordello. I don't know how to say that. I appreciate the follow.
An internal perception you have of, I don't know, in regards to yourself, whatever.
Yeah, and another problem with this is that would mean, and before you please let me finish this, analytically, that infants would lack a gender too, because now you can say that we impose it on them for pragmatic reasons to refer to them as boys and girls, but that would still mean that because they lack the capacity to internally perceive themselves as XYZ, they would be a gender. So that means everybody is born a gender technically,
yes.
And we just refer to them as girls and boys for pragmatic reasons.
Yes,
jump scare.
That's what I'm talking about with the external socialization that we correlate with sex. And what I'm saying is that's
you should hear the sub sound one. Hey, listen, somebody throw me $5. Throw out some
women,
subs.
People you would consider women based on biology. The sexual characteristics.
Did you agree with what I said?
That an infant would technically be agender? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can literally look up how the socialization of gender can take place a lot of the times. And again, I'm not saying this is some like conspiratorial, like, let me make my child, whatever. Like,
yeah, no,
it's much more of a subtle reinforcement thing. Yeah, I have 2 kids, so I've seen it happen myself. It happens.
This nigga's a father? Oh,
yeah,
God,
absolutely.
God
but
have
there's
mercy
also
on those
strong
children.
evidence showing that by the time the kid is 6 or 7.
I want to see that.
They already have a pretty strong sense of gender and themselves in regards to that. So gender is a form of identity in regards to a social construct, just like other forms of identity in regards to social constructs. I'm giving you examples of where this applies here.
Yeah,
and so far you haven't really made an argument or a rebuttal. You're just saying. So based on your definition, some people wouldn't be women. Yeah,
she's dog walking.
I think it's that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that in the discussion of are all trans women under your definition,
I'm saying, bro,
XYZ implications.
This grifting ass nigga have kids, bro.
Implications, but I think the majority of people would say like we're not born a gender.
Okay, that's fine. What people want to say.
Okay.
People can say what they want, but again, it's like
I was asking
this is
that,
the thing
not as a gotcha. I was just trying to understand if that was something you were willing to.
So I'm going to say what you said earlier is just if something is does just.
Yo, Miska, appreciate the follow.
My definition is not all encompassing, and you can find a couple exceptions.
Catalina's in the chat right now. We worked on it.
Women are not are. A woman is someone whose internal perception aligns with what we culturally view as being feminine. It doesn't negate my definition. And if you're going to say that
appreciate the follow, Kendrick.
Because when I bring up the fact that your definition is serves even less utility and is far less encompassing than mine.
There's no way that you think that.
You're right that it doesn't prove trans women are women. But it is a little bit ironic that you're arguing that position when the definition you're trying to defend is worse. It has all the problems.
I don't have the
problems you're
burden
trying
of
to
having
demonstrate
an
with mine are
all-encompassing
worse for
definition.
you.
I never accepted that I would argue an encompassing definition of trans woman. You did of woman that would be trans inclusive. So that's why I think that if there are counter examples that are posed, you would at least agree that not all trans women are women, just most are at least.
Well, I would agree that a woman is someone whose internal perception aligns with what we culturally view as being feminine. Again, the example you gave me was like this one time of someone who said their internal perception was masculine. I would love to talk to that person and see how that even works or makes sense.
I still think it works or makes sense. And like I know you mentioned the tomboy counter example and how that doesn't really hold. And I think that it does, because if your internal perception is every thought, every desire, every preference is more so geared towards what we culturally view as masculine rather than feminine, right? Then they would in turn be a man to you. And maybe we can't be inclusive of every single thing, but we can say most. If most of your internal perceptions align with masculinity, then you would have to be a man by your logic.
If you have an internal perception that aligns with cultural views of masculinity, you'd be a man. That's my definition. And I at least just to back up a little bit here, in the context of this conversation, you do have a bit of you do have a bit of a burden here. They can never tell you these definition.
They can never tell you these perceptions.
That's the definition. That's why. That's the current definition. Because if we don't accept my definition, we go back to the current definition. And if you're going to say,
if we don't know what something is, we remain agnostic.
Let's go back to the one that has all these flaws times 10. Seems kind of silly, right?
If we don't accept something, we just remain agnostic or unconvinced on it, right? So say you're not convinced of my definition. I'm not convinced of yours. So we would be agnostic on the proposition, are trans women, right? We wouldn't take a position either way if there's no clear understanding here.
So all the women in the chat do the laundry today? Oh my God.
Okay.
Could I technically be a trans man?
What is your definition of a woman?
My definition of a woman would be a female, adult human female.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I understand that it doesn't mean that my claim is true, but it also is like that your definition has the same problems you're trying to bring up about my definition, but your definition has them worse.
But I never accepted a burden to make an inclusive definition of trans people.
Saanvi!
You want an inclusive definition of women on biology, right?
Hence why we're debating are trans women, because you're assuming you're taking.
No. I want to ask you this question here. You want your definition, an adult human female.
Oh, there's my comb.
To be as encompassing as possible.
I dropped it.
Women in the basis of biology, right? Of the biological characteristics. Combine that the collection of biological characteristics to make.
I don't want it to be anything. Just how it functionally works is how it's going to work.
So the goal of a definition. So then maybe I should
desire to have an inclusive definition.
Okay, so then maybe I should rephrase. The goal of definitions, the reason they exist, is to try and be as encompassing as possible.
That's not true.
No,
that's not true.
It's to describe concepts.
That's not
true. It's to describe concepts.
That is so fucking
wrong. Be as encompassing.
Wow. No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's
when
not
we're
true.
talking about, at least if we're talking about something like, hold on.
He's actually a moron.
At least if we're talking about something as the definition of a woman or female, we want the definition to include as many people who are female and exclude as many people who are not female as possible.
Like, definitions exist to define words. That's literally it. It has nothing to do with encompassing, right? Like, if you wanted to be encompassing, we could just have a one-word language, and that one word could mean everything, right? That's it. I just said "the" in a bunch of different ways. Like that. What an absolutely stupid fucking argument. Like, definitions by definition are exclusionary. Like, if you want, it's so dumb. That is so dumb, and people agree with this shit.
Well,
and
that would
your
just
definition
be evident, right?
Excludes
like when we look at what a triangle is, like what is a triangle?
Saanvi loves triangle. I guess. A two-dimensional, three-sided shape.
But like anything beyond that, because a triangle is distinct from a rectangular.
A two-dimensional.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Make your point.
Like a, three-sided, three-angle, two-dimensional shape, right? So if we take something like that, And then somebody posits a counterexample like,
He's getting
oh,
cooked.
what about
He's
an
getting
obtuse
cooked.
triangle? I'll say those are included. And then if somebody says, what about a square? I'm going to say, so sorry, that's not included, right? So I have no desire for definitions to be inclusive rather than them just be functional in describing things.
Okay, so you want them to be functional in describing things.
Yeah.
So your definition fails in functionality. Mine doesn't. So I'm
I
not
would
even
disagree
talking
with
about, you have to understand here is my argument here doesn't even need to be trans women are women because of my definition, etc. My definition accounts for people that you currently view as women more so than your definition. Your definition doesn't serve that functionality.
I would disagree with that because, for example, I view a newborn infant as a girl, and I view an adult human female who has a severe cognitive disability as a woman. Yet you would say both of those individuals are in fact a gender, not women.
That's just having a better understanding of the concept of gender. This doesn't actually help your point at all. How does your definition serve functionality?
Take
Hold on, wait,
like,
please. How does your definition serve functionality if it isn't as encompassing?
It serves functionality in what I'm trying to say. So like if we were to take a gender non-conforming radical feminist, like do you know what that kind of is in the literature?
Go ahead, yes.
Yeah. So people who want to disassociate femininity and the social construct of femininity from females altogether. So intentionally, these people adopt more masculine things and have more masculine perceptions, yet they still consider themselves women. So I wouldn't see how you would account for this.
You keep derailing and like just moving to a different thing and not answering the question I'm asking.
No, like
you.
because
you
the
said
claim that you made was
you said the goal of a definition is to serve functionality, and I'm asking
in describing things, describing concepts. That's what I said.
In describing concepts.
Yeah.
So if you want to serve functionality in describing a concept as a woman being an adult human female, but yet your definition doesn't serve that functionality because there are millions of people that you would recognize as being women who have that biology, even who would be excluded from your definition.
No, because they would still be females because chromosomes don't determine that. But I feel like this is still irrelevant to.
So chromosomes don't determine it then.
This is not relevant to the proposition are trans women. Because even
if
it
might be depending on what collection of biological traits do you think makes a woman a woman?
I don't think this is relevant to our trans women, right?
Because because if trans women have undergone sex reassignment, for example,
would you agree we might have different accounts of this, but would you at least agree that there are males and there are females?
As far as sexual characteristics, yes.
Like, yeah, sex-wise, there is a
yes, we generally recognize two like archetypes, yeah.
So
generally recognize two archetypes.
What makes a male be able to be a woman is the discussion, right? Because even if I were to concede, sure, let's concede all of them aren't women, it would still have no bearing on if a trans woman is a woman.
Ooh. I understand that, but the reason I'm asking you about your view of what collection of biological traits would suffice to be a woman is because it could, if we're talking about, say, a trans person who's undergone sex reassignment. So if you're saying, well, for me, I
see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. So you're saying, for me, my definition of woman is this type of biological trait, this biological trait, this biological trait. Well, that might actually be applicable because we do have, trans women who've undergone.
Yeah. So just to clarify, I see gonads, genitalia, secondary sex characteristics. What your sex is comes down to your genetics, things like the SRY gene. I've looked extensively into like the 40 plus intersex conditions, but the gamete view you kind of described is what I take.
Okay. So, but then there would still be
it wouldn't again be relevant because we don't have the CRISPR technology to fully alter your genes and therefore gametes yet. And we also recognize that there there is obviously then some exception still in your definition that does allow.
And that's fine. Even if I were to say that so many times, she said that so many times.
Because in this case, we're talking about somebody who
has a vagina. Oh my God, I'm gonna end it all.
So now they have an external female sex organ, and they don't produce gametes. You just told me that person would be a woman.
wait, if they have a vagina but do not produce gametes, the way that we would determine sex would be looking at their genes and looking at what developmental pathway they undertook, right? Given that in the mammalian kingdom, there are only
Fecal
two
males.
gametes, you can only undertake one of two developmental pathways, which are determined by transcription in your genes.
Wait.
Okay.
Again,
how does that
even
address
if I were to
anything?
concede
Yes,
all of
in
the-
nature, that's how some things evolve. You said that a woman you generally try to define as the gamete position.
I hope his wife's
But I'm explaining
boyfriend
that
gives him a stern talking.
well, like
to
in my
after
opening, I
this.
talked about the condition, about the Swire
syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah, where
even with that
again,
being
and by the
said,
way, I'm also
given that-
recognizing right off the bat that yes, of course it's rare, but as rare as it might be, you would still consider
Yeah,
those
I still
people women,
account
right?
for it. So under Sawyer
So
syndrome,
why does that make sense? So
Shut
why
the
does,
fuck
I can
up.
defend it really quick.
It can
So,
defend it if you
under
shut the fuck up,
biological account
Hunter.
of what a female
Holy
is,
shit.
there are only
These male
two
feminists are
developmental
always so
pathways a human can
condescending.
undertake,
Shut up.
right? Given that there are only two gametes. So with that being said, even if something blocks you from actualizing the production of X gamete, that doesn't mean you didn't undertake the developmental pathway to reach that point. So people with Sawyer syndrome, it depends if they haven't expressed SRY gene or not. Some do, some don't. Some are fertile, some are not. So you would need to present me a specific case with their gene code, and then I could determine if they're female or not. But even so, this has no bearing on the truth of the proposition, so it's not relevant.
okay, you keep saying
Damn,
that, but it does.
Saanvi.
We already established it, and you already agreed.
And I already
that it does
explained the
actually- it
biology
could
to you.
actually
So
have
like
some-
you and
So you're saying if
take
they
okay, so
took the
take somebody
pathway,
with
what
Sawyer
about some-
syndrome
Well, hold on, wait,
that
please,
has an
because some of them
expressed
don't
SRY
have
gene. I would not
ovaries
call
at
them.
all.
1 second, just
I would
because
not call them a female if they have an expressed SRY gene, right? Not just the presence of the SRY gene on the Y chromosome, but the expression and execution of the SRY gene and its function. If they have that, they are not a female. Is that
So
clear?
if they have no ovaries at all, would you consider that person to be
I didn't
not a
mention
female?
ovaries. So sex is determined genetically. Those are secondary sex characteristics
Oh,
that
wow,
can
they
help us
put this
out,
bitch in
but they're not the
subscribers
main
only.
Okay, I'm
mode.
sorry. I was still talking about the gametes part, so maybe I misunderstood a little bit there.
Yeah, so eggs are produced in the ovaries, right? But you can still undertake a developmental pathway towards the production of eggs without actually actualizing the organ of ovaries.
Right. So once again, your definition completely fails because now in order to understand who would be a woman, we first have to establish who would be a female. So we have to gene test people in order to determine who's a woman. How does this, you realize people will call themselves a woman or express themselves a certain way before they've been gene tested
That's
You can
fine.
There's
Just
express
because
obviously
you
yourself-
express
social
express yourself
identity
however you
form
want, you fucking
of
jackass.
gender involved here, right?
But just because there's further inquiry necessary or further testing necessary to discern a truth of the matter has no bearing on the truth of the matter. Like if I were to show you fool's gold and real gold and they looked phenotypically identical, are you saying that they're actually identical in terms of their properties? No.
Oh, no,
we
no, no,
have-
no. I'm not saying because of the extra testing that, no, I'm sorry. My point is that your definition, again, fails in serving functionality because on our day-to-day basis, we're not going to be gene testing people. We're not going to be even looking at, obviously, we're not going to be looking at people's ovaries or their genitalia or whatnot.
Yeah,
and
which
so,
I never mentioned, by the way, but yeah.
So if there is somebody who is expressing themselves this way, is it possible then that you would most likely consider them a woman, right? You would refer to them as a
Yeah,
woman.
so I think there's a difference between an inference and something that's actually true. And this goes back to the gold example. Like if I were to show you fool's gold and real gold, the average human is going to look at those two and say, they're both gold, right? Like, because if they look exactly the same, they're both gold. We need further testing to verify the truth of the matter, but we make inferences. The same goes for female, and the same goes for woman. We might make an inference, but we know further testing is required to determine the truth of the matter.
Sure. Okay. So then you do though recognize, before I go into my second part, so you recognize then the establishment of certain gender characteristics though that are like separate from sex.
Like secondary sex characteristics, for example? Is that what you're talking about?
No,
facial
like
hair and-
social gender behavior characteristics, expectations, roles. You recognize that as like a thing though, right? That's separate from sex.
Yeah, gender norms exist. Yeah.
That would partially be gender. That would be the external gender social construct. So then you recognize there being something that exists as a result of human interaction that
What
is
is my
correlated
TikTok
to
doing?
biology, right? Because a lot of this gene testing thing boils
Is
down
it correlated
to
to
sex
biology?
ultimately.
Because kind of what you mentioned in your opening statement, is wearing a dress correlated to biology?
Do you think it is?
I think no, but you said you seem to agree with me, but I can't guess not anymore.
She just helped me refine
I
my
said
arguments.
wearing a dress is not correlated with biology.
Correct. And now you just said sex. It does have a correlation. So which is it?
Okay, I'm sorry. Did I say correlated or caused? Because if I said correlated, that would have been my mistake and my miswording.
No, correlated, right? Like, yeah.
So, okay, yeah, well, no, of this whole conversation, I've been acknowledging that gender is correlated with sex, but the correlation is our doing. That's the social part. We have a gender thing. We have certain expectations, characteristics, traits, roles that we correlate with biology, but it's not caused by the biology. Right?
But it's not true. Like the blue and pink thing. There's nothing inherent about being a boy that makes you like blue. There's nothing inherent about being a girl that makes you like pink. Just stuff like that. You're saying we assign those things to those individuals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That part I would agree with. But with that being said, I think another implication would be societies differentiate in this. Some societies would have the opposite view of ours and would say that people that are leaders, people that go out and be breadwinners are actually what are typically casted as women and females. So under this view, if you travel to say the tribe I just mentioned, the African tribe, like would that make your gender change?
Can give a coherent definition.
Well, no, because your gender identity would be based upon whatever cultural norms you were kind of socialized into originally.
Oh, like you grew up with?
Just yeah, more or less. Yeah. I mean, it's probably not that simple, but like more or less. It just like I said, how like you can be a football fan, but what it means to even be a football fan in Brazil is literally means to be a fan of a different sport even. But it doesn't mean that you're not a football fan.
Yeah, he's a moron, by the way, because they literally call football here in America, they call it American football. So his argument immediately falls apart. They don't call it the same fucking thing.
As far as your identity in American sports, right? So yes, it can change and be like culturally relevant. But that just further demonstrates that it's a socially constructed thing, that there's this entity, this collection of traits, right? So that exists separate from sex. The correlation exists because of us. So when you talk about like gene testing people and everything else, that really does come down to sex. That doesn't come down to gender. So that's where I know we disagree.
Yeah, I think that's obviously, that's where we disagree on is the sex gender distinction and how that's sort of applied.
So you don't believe that there's a distinction between, or what is your position generally on that? Because that might help us get somewhere here.
Well, I mean, if the definition of woman is adult human female, clearly there's a necessary condition in there about what your sexual biology is. But with that even being said, I think that the definition you're proposing, it would at least mean that gender is relative to society, to various societies. Is that correct? Maybe not your gender, just the concept in general.
This external social construct of gender? Absolutely, yeah. It's a socially constructed thing. That's why we have conversations about like what it even means to be a woman has in many ways changed over time, right?
Yeah. So would you say like many more conservative places that view a woman as an adult human female, that's what the society generally views as a woman, and that's that society's conception of gender, would you then say
it's broader? No, because it's broader than that. It's not going to be like my neighborhood's view of gender, especially with access we have to the resources. We have, well, hold on. We have a general understanding of the external points of gender. Like, yes, we recognize what's masculine, what's feminine, what we might label as being such.
That's crazy. Everyone who would argue
that's going to you're going to have knowledge of that outside of like your local community.
Yeah, LJ, that's one thing that I've noticed is like people who are on our side, they generally make around the same arguments, right? They're like, we say gametes, they might say chromosomes, right? But me and you know why chromosomes is bad, but like generally we say the same things, right? But the problem with Hunter's side is as many debates as we've done, as many videos as we've seen, they're not on the same fucking page at all. Remember that one time, I think that one live that we were in with that bitch pulled out the graphs. She was literally saying, yes, I think trans women are female. Right? Like, the problem is that they can't make the same arguments, and it's difficult for us because we don't know which argument they're going to make. That's why I like Saanvi's opening statement that I think that you missed, because she addressed all of it. She addressed all like a lot of the things that they generally say, and you could tell in the look on his face, he was like, oh yeah, like I'm going to lose, right? Because she already attacked most of the fucking points. And then he was like, I don't know where it says women is anyone who identifies as female, and she literally said, like, she said it's from Cambridge Dictionary, because there are a lot of dictionaries who are changing definitions. So this is from an officially recognized dictionary. So like they're not even sure of what they're saying, like each other. The only thing that trans women are women, but their defense for the argument is all completely different.
Right. So I can't even take like maybe a country, if that would work better, like small countries. So if the vast majority, overwhelming amount of people in that country directly tied gender to sex, and that was their society's conception of gender, wouldn't that still make a trans woman in that society?
That football argument is so fucking dumb. Homonyms quite literally exist in the English language. Football references the two different sports. It isn't at all analogous. The issue with the gender definition reconstruction is that they aren't intending to add a new definition, but rework it into one that exists in the active contradiction of itself. Ooh,
not bars. A woman?
Well, based on their definition, probably not. But I mean, right now we tie it to biology. So right now, with the current definition we have, that's why we're having this argument, right? So
we're arguing
they might not define it that way, but you know what? You might have over here.
My issue is that if they truly believe that trans women and trans men are men and women, well, women and men respectively, then what makes a man and a woman a woman? What do we even define both as anymore? Logical? No, their argument is basically it's anyone who identifies one and
I'm religious in the sense that I'm a Christian, so I have this identity, I have this belief internally, but in this rural, isolated island, right? In order to be classified as religious, you need to be involved in human sacrifice. They might have different standards or different definitions you need to meet, but that doesn't negate the identity that was originally built.
I think there's a little. So do you think that a Christian is somebody who identifies as a Christian? Like,
I think that a Christian is ultimately somebody whose internal belief is that of there probably is a form of identity as far as identifying themselves as like a sinner, theologically speaking, but
this
like
identifying
themselves as a sinner, but more so it's just
Hunter Avalon's a fucking moron.
Yes, it's about internally believing that Jesus Christ is Lord.
I think I kind of forgot to mention this in my presentation, but I don't think there's any feature you obtain in reality simply as identifying as it. And I'm not sure why gender would be the one that we special plead to that.
There's not any real trait that with what Christianity?
Just in general, there's no feature that we obtain in reality simply as identifying as having such.
So what? There's plenty of
you're
going to need to elaborate. Maybe I'm missing it. It sounds like you're saying there's no real objective thing that happens.
There's no thing that you can be just by identifying as such a thing.
That's what it sounds like you're saying.
No, you don't. Your identity is essentially not valid if you just obtained it by identifying as having it.
Identifying as having it. Well, yeah, but I mean,
example, like talking about American football. Do you think somebody who's never even seen what a football looks like, never watched a game on TV, never been to one, never seen their friends play, nothing of the sort, can still identify as a football fan when they had no
concept of it at all? Probably not.
Right. So there's still necessary conditions, even though we probably haven't fleshed them out to be something.
Wait, of course you're going to wait. Well, that's not the necessary condition being you must interact with an external social construct in order to have an internal identity on the basis of that construct. Yeah, of course, that's a necessary condition.
Well, yeah, so we can accept that. So again, there's no feature you obtain in reality simply as identifying as it. There's always some conditionals.
So in this case, the condition would be having an internal perception that aligns with cultural views of femininity. In order to be a Christian, the condition would be having an internal belief that you yourself are a sinner in need of God's love and grace, and that Jesus Christ is Lord. You don't need to express
the fact that this moron's like trying to argue Christianity with it it's just blasphemous. I hope I will never have to argue against Saanvi on anything. Saanvi and I agree on a lot of things. I'd love to be in a debate with Saanvi though.
That you are a Christian, it doesn't mean that you are not a Christian if you fail to do this.
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's still some necessary conditions like believing Jesus Christ is Lord or whatever, like you mentioned.
Just like there's necessary condition in being a woman, which is having that internal perception.
So that's why I wanted to ask, like, what do you mean by internal perception? Because maybe I was showing you earlier, but the only thing I can think of is your preferences and your psychosocial interaction. That's it.
Yeah, it's going to be the way you perceive yourself in relation to this. It could be in some ways like, I feel that I fit better in this category, but it's most likely going to be more than just like, I kind of like the color pink. And also, there is such a thing, of course, as being like a boy who is much more comfortable identifying with masculinity, cultural views of masculinity, but might like certain elements of femininity, whether that's like wearing pink, or maybe they think princesses or Barbies are cool.
I like bubble
that doesn't like
baths,
make
therefore
you a
I'm as much
girl,
a woman
right?
as
That's
my
just
mom.
right. So
so what is that like threshold of social and behavioral characteristics
that makes you the well, hold on. I'm trying to understand a little bit more your broader argument, because you're saying there's necessary criteria that you must meet for anything
or
to be
sufficient
valid.
criteria, one of the two.
Sufficient criteria for
It can be
to
either
valid.
or. I'm just saying you don't obtain something just by identifying as it.
Okay, yes, just identifying as, if you're going to say like, I guess that would be a good argument if someone's like, a woman is someone who says I identify as a woman who says I identify as a woman, but
Right. Yeah,
but
but
there's
more so
to
what I was.
but hold on, wait, please, because there's more to my definition than
Yeah,
that.
I know. I'm not trying to strawman your definition. I was going to apply it.
If we're talking about somebody like a Christian, though, if they have that internal belief,
God,
do they meet that
bro,
necessary
he's just
condition?
repeating himself.
If they believe, as you mentioned earlier, then yes.
Right. So then why, if trans women have that internal belief, can't that also be meeting that necessary condition?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. So like take dresses or the color pink or Barbies, like you kind of just mentioned.
People be wrong about
do you have to have a belief that you like those Barbies, or do you have to actually like them, or do you have to simply have an internal perception that you like them? Like that's what I'm not understanding.
That's kind of what she just asked, Isaac.
You would probably sort of just gravitate towards that more and more. I mean, if you listen to most people, I know like Blair White even talked about just like having an experience as she was getting older and sort of interacting with more gendered spaces, having more of this sort of discomfort with not fitting in certain categories or not fitting right here. Again, a lot of it isn't going to be like this. Obviously, it's like, it's not going to be like intellectualizing, like, do internally I desire to play with Barbie? Like, it's going to be more like, what do you gravitate towards? How do you end up seeing yourself in regards to these traits and characteristics? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of asking, like, what is the threshold of these characteristics that you must meet in order to be considered a woman?
What is it like? So what elements of that internal perception must be met? Is that what you're asking me? Because I don't know.
Right,
I don't know if
like,
I have like an exact
people might naturally gravitate towards these things in terms of that's just what you like. That's not reducible. But I wanted to ask, like, what is that criteria of threshold things that you must meet in order to be considered?
Do you like watching the?
We got to go to the Q&A pretty quick here, as we're past that 50 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know if I have like a exact criteria, but that's why I say it's the internal perception, because that's going to manifest itself differently for everybody. So it's not going to be like you must wear pink and lipstick, etc., or you must internally feel this way. It's more so like, if you have this internal perception, it's going to manifest itself in different ways. So I don't know if it would be fair for me to be like, you must check these boxes of everything.
Yeah, and I think the problem with that is, what if somebody's internal perception is they just need to meet one feminine archetype and then they can be a woman?
What if their internal perception? That wouldn't be an internal perception. That would just be like an internal belief or like opinion they have.
Well, that is like, what is an internal perception if not a belief or a preference?
In this case, I'm talking about a perception of yourself in regards to an external construct. So just saying, well, I'm going to now perceive that in order to be a woman, it actually means somebody who really likes flying airplanes. So now that I fly airplanes, I'm a woman. Like, no, because it has to actually relate to the external social construct to ultimately have a form of utility as well.
Yeah, and if it has to relate to the external social construct, I think that goes back to the example that I sort of posited earlier. Like, if the overwhelming, like 99.9% of society in a country thinks that a woman is a female, you would agree then that in that society, their gender identity, a male's gender identity as a woman would not be valid.
A male's gender identity as a woman would, well, no, not at all, because there have been people who have different gender identities in societies that have been more strongly in enforcing the correlation between sex and
wait. He literally just conceded, in a society, if the society deems women as being female, like adult human female, then a male can never be a woman. That is what she just asked.
All because there have been
thinks that a woman earlier, like if to the external social construct, I think that goes back to the example that I sort of posited earlier. Like if the overwhelming, like 99.9% of society in a country thinks that a woman is a female, you would agree then that in that society, their gender identity, a male, Down syndrome, for example, would just come up. And that's why I'm kind of asking, like, what is the threshold of these?
What is it like? So
I'm asking, like, what is the
like, do internally I desire to play with? Well, no, not at all. Because
in a country thinks that a woman is a female, you would agree then that in that society, their gender identity, a male's gender identity as a woman would not be valid.
A male's gender identity as a woman would, well, no, not at all. Because there have been people who,
by saying no, not at all, then trans women in America are not women. The overwhelming majority of people do not think so. Get shit on.
Different gender identities in societies that have been more strongly in enforcing the correlation between sex and gender. I think that gender and sex.
Oh Jesus. Okay, so the Christian he said no, not at all. He did, but then he's just gonna deflect and change it quickly. Okay, so the Christian points actively work against the position. He brings up the point that our internal inceptions define who we are, which is true. The disconnect is where he believes that we should reshape language based on an individual's internal perception / philosophy. Let's use Christianity as an example. If I believe Jesus Christ is God, that does not mean that society should assert my internal perception as fact and reshape society to fit my own personal narrative. W.
Sex are always going to exist as a concept. Are you saying if a society exists in which they say we have there is no such thing as gender, it's just in order to be considered a woman, it must only be this biological thing? Would that person then not be yeah, I guess by their definition, maybe not, but
okay.
I mean, because we already have tried to be defining people, right, on that biological thing. Even right,
and it has literally worked for the entirety of man.
Yes, and it's not working. It doesn't serve.
What do you mean it's not working, you fucking dumbass? Hold on. Less than 0.018% are intersex people. Less than 1% are trans people. Who the fuck is it not working for? It's literally working for everyone. Literally 99% of people, except for the 1% of people who are fucked up or want it to be about them. What the fuck do you mean it's not working for people? What?
Thing. Even right here in the US, and it's not working.
You are such a fucking moron. Oh my God.
Doesn't serve nearly as much functionality.
It literally does. It literally fucking does. Holy shit. What an actual fucking moron. It is embarrassing to be this fucking stupid. And just unaware, just socially unaware, just intellectually unaware, mentally unaware. You have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, and I think like another thing is what's masculine and feminine does vary per culture and per where in the world that you go. So I think in one place, your beliefs, your preferences, what you gravitate towards would be more in line with feminine things. But then you go to another place and they're more in line with like what masculine things or things that are even gender neutral. I think that sort of implies that somebody is a woman in one place, but in another place they would be non-binary or simply
not at all. No, your identity can be valid from one culture if it's culturally relevant. We already went over this.
If you gravitate
just like the religious
what that society associates with masculine things, how would you be a woman?
Wait, if you live in a society in which the definition to be religious is believe.
Stop bringing up religion and answer the damn question. You're not as smart as you think you are.
This way, as far as Christianity, but you go to a different society which says in order to be religious, you must commit human sacrifice. Are you no longer religious? The society would probably not define you as religious since they have their own, definition, but you still have an internal belief regarding religion. That's already been formed.
Yeah, but the problem is your definition of woman references a social construct and references society. Because if we say a woman is somebody whose internal perception aligns with what we culturally view as being feminine. That is in reference to a broader group of people, which is the rest of the people you're geographically around, your society. So under that view, if we were to go to a different society, what your internal perception is would align a completely different way. It may align with masculine things. That would mean somebody can become woman or man depending on where in the world they're standing.
You mean if you like take somebody as a baby and have them raised in an environment in which
you're just being disingenuous. There's no way you don't understand what the fuck he's saying. There's no fucking way. Or she's saying, I'm sorry, Saanvi. Like, you understand what she's saying. You know what she's saying. You're just being an ass. W Stream, what's up, biggest homies?
Views of femininity and masculinity are different, then yeah, like the way that they perceive themselves or are a woman or man, based on their internal perception. Yeah, it might be different. There are different roles and expectations throughout history for women. This is why at one point an internal perception of yourself as being cultural views of femininity would probably include much more rigid roles as well, right? Like staying in the kitchen, for example. But this has changed. Yeah. And so we clearly recognize a social element of gender. And so once again, I'll reiterate that since my definition is the reference to the internal perception, it is more encompassing of all women, not just trans women, but of all women, and it serves more functionality as well.
Stop bringing up encompassing and functionality. Like, you just threw the word functionality in there because she said it. No, and she's already conceded she doesn't give a fuck about encompassing. It's not about to encompass people. Not like this.
Yeah, so I don't think this really like addresses the point though, because if what you like just mentioned, take being in the kitchen, being nurturing, qualities that maybe in America we typically associate with females, and your identity aligns more with those things, like being submissive, being nurturing, being in the kitchen. If you travel to like a part of West Africa, those traits and beliefs and perceptions that you hold may make you a man, because that is not what their society traditionally views.
Shut the fuck up, Hunter. Shut the fuck up.
Understanding my definition of a.
She is understanding. You won't let her finish the fucking point. You goddamn cuck. You disgusting grifting loser. Shut the fuck up and let her talk. This is one of the very few times I'll say let her cook, but let her cook. Damn it.
Woman is not just whatever society says.
It's somebody whose internal perception aligns with what society views as female or male.
Sure. So maybe if it's their internal perception that aligns with what we culturally view as being feminine, not like in the moment, that internal perception is formed over time. That's why I say that gender identity is influenced. It's not like you're switching from man. Not like in the moment, that internal perception is formed over time. That's why I say that gender identity is influenced. What we culturally view as being feminine, not like in the moment. That internal perception is formed over time. That's why I say that gender identity is influenced.
Did this nigga just low-key say that we're making kids trans? Did he just low-key say that we're making people trans? Did he just low-key admit that?
It's not like you're.
Did he just low-key admit that? Did he just pretty much say we can make people trans? It's influenced. Is that LJ, Isaac? I need y'all specifically. Is that one more time?
Feminine, not like in the moment. That internal perception is formed over time. That's why I say that gender identity is influenced.
Did he just low-key admit that we're making people trans?
It's not like you're switching from man or woman because culturally they define it here, then culturally they define it there. This is why the internal perception holds the weight, which is going to take time and influence to form in regards to the external.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. So in the example, like I posited, in America, you might be raised in a way that those are the traits we typically deem to be feminine, which are to be nurturing, to be caring, to be submissive, stay in the kitchen, whatnot.
Oh, that is where the logic would go, but I'm sure that if he is pressed on it, the goalpost will change. We say, but what? Wait, how he said it?
America, in regards to the external, which is going to take time and influence to form in regards to the external
I'm not
social
denying
construct.
that. So in the example, like I posited, in America, you might be raised in a way that those are the traits we typically deem to be feminine, which are to be nurturing, to be caring, to be submissive, stay in the kitchen, whatnot. Now, if you travel to another place, you still have those characteristics, like you mentioned. That's not something you can just sort of change, right? You're still going to
Your internal perception is still the same, yes.
Yeah.
The word for bridge is seen as feminine or masculine in different languages. So the words people use to describe them in those languages are gender rooted too, i.e. beautiful versus strong, depending on the gendered language. Yeah, he went back to the internal perception there, true.
That you can't change that. That's still going to be the same. All those preferences are still going to be the same. But now with the second part of your definition aligns with what we culturally view as feminine. That is no longer going to align with what they culturally view as feminine in some places. That is going to align with what they culturally view as masculine, if that's possible. So I think that would imply that their gender would still change via geographic location.
No, it wouldn't, because gender is not just the external social construct. It's also the internal perception.
No, he's not listening. He's not listening. Like, he's actually not listening. There's no way you could watch this debate and say, oh yeah, he's listening. He's dog walking. Like, she just explained it. She's explained it so many times. Like, you can't like explain it anyway. Like, yes, internal, good, we're got internal and cultural and cultural and cultural and cultural. Okay, so it's not or, it's and. So if one of them is not true, then it's no longer the definition of the word. So it doesn't matter what your internal one is. If the cultural one is not the same, then you are no longer a woman. But he's not listening.
So the internal perception forms on a basis of cultural views of femininity. This doesn't mean that cultural views of femininity determine whether or not you are a woman on a whim. It means that the way you form that internal identity is in regards to the external social construct. I feel like maybe we've hit a wall or something, because I feel like I'm saying the same thing and then you're saying the same thing and then I'm saying the same thing, but like it's exactly the same. So like, is somebody no longer a football fan in Brazil? If they like watching the NFL here in America, or if they like watching the NFL, right? And here in the US, and then they go to Brazil and they say, I'm a football fan. Are they no longer a football fan?
The problem is, being a football fan, liking American football, has like literally nothing to do with like what you align with cultural perceptions, because you can like football.
Views of sports, culturally,
but you don't have to align with that to be a football fan.
Wait, no, the social external construct of sports, the foundational social construct, varies in society. But
yes.
if you identify yourself as a football fan, in regards to the external social construct being U.S. NFL football teams,
right?
And then you go to a society in which football is something different, are you no longer a football fan? This is really a yes or no question. Right?
Well, no, because I mean, obviously, I acknowledge that your internal preferences, they never change, right? What I was more so, obviously you're still going to be a football fan, your preference doesn't change. What I was more so pushing back on was that second part, where it's that internal perception has to align with X for you to be a woman. With football, your internal perception of liking it doesn't have to align with anything. You just got to like it to be a football fan. But with your definition of woman, it's an internal perception that aligns with what the culture views as.
I realize the problem. I think you're taking from my definition that I'm saying someone whose internal perception aligns with what we culturally view as being feminine constantly, like it must remain so. But what I'm saying is that the external social construct forms the internal identity. And that internal identity can still change and whatnot. But like I said, most people, by the time they're the age of like 5, 6, 7, 8, have a pretty decent understanding already of their gender identity. So it's not like a constant, like, you must.
In what regard? In regard of what their preferences are?
I can give you a chance to respond to Saanvi's question, and then we got to go into the Q&A.
In regards to how they see themselves, in regards to, probably preferences, I would be more than happy to look it up and give you more specifics if you'd like. But
okay.
It's not like you must keep internally aligning with this. You must keep internally aligning with this. It's more that like there is that external social construct, and yes, it's going to change as society changes. But once that internal perception is more or less formed, that's what holds the weight. That's why it stays constant, just if society or a different culture has different views.
We're going to jump into the Q&A, but first, a couple of housekeeping type things. Folks, I have pinned at the top of the chat. Have you been to the Modern Day Debate Discord? If you haven't, check it out right now. That's pinned to the top of the chat, or if you're watching afterwards, you can find it in the description box. Check out the Modern Day Debate Discord. We'd love to have you a part of the conversation there as the debates keep going. We're going to jump into the Q&A. Want to say as well, our guests are linked in the description. Check their links out right now. That includes if you're listening via the podcast. And Simon Allen says, should not be awake, but caught it live. Thanks for all the work you put into this, James. We salute you. Thanks for your kind words. And all credit to the speakers. They are the lifeblood of the channel. Check out their links. Saanvi, you don't have a link right now, do you?
Mm-mm.
Banned from TikTok. Very sad. But Simon Allen says Saanvi wins. You have a fan out there, Saanvi. This one from B. Smiley the Third says, let's go, Saanvi. Let's go. You had a lot of cheerleaders. Steven Zavatsky says, what is a woman? Saanvi is. What is a goddess? Saanvi is. Wow. Says, who is my queen? Saanvi. Okay. Well, Von Zoom says, your face. Okay. Von Zoom says, do either of you feel that trans women reinforce feminine gender stereotypes?
Yes.
Well, I was hoping this would come up. Because this is definitely a perceived hypocrisy, and I totally understand why. The thing is that gender, well, first of all, this is built on a faulty assumption that like all trans people are simultaneously gender abolitionists. There's a good chunk of trans people who just don't
Are
care
gender
about,
essentialists, yeah.
well, gender means a lot to them because of the way they've either struggled with it or like the way that they've just interacted with it, their upbringing and whatnot. So like not every trans person is a gender abolitionist is the first thing. The second thing is, even if the long-term goal were to abolish gender entirely, come on, it's ridiculous to be like, oh, now trans people, you just wait it out and just die by the time we actually get around to like deconstructing this thing. I'm of the opinion that gender is never going to not exist. I think that gender is always going to exist so long as humans interact with each other. I think that really what we need to be getting rid of is the expectations. So if you have a trans person who wants to externally present themselves in ways that might be like feminine, culturally viewed as being feminine right now, right? Like wearing a dress or whatnot.
Yo, my first This You video with the bitch from Reddit, that shit just crossed 200,000 likes, boy. Yeah. No, that's fucking wild. You know what's crazy? It's at 200,000 likes and not even 1 million fucking views. The ratio is 900k views to 200,000 likes. My biggest post has 200 oh no. My biggest one of my third biggest post has 1.8 million views and 253,000 likes. So it's got double the views and only 50k more likes. That's crazy.
There's nothing wrong with that because right now that's gendered. That's what people see it as. But if you're coming up and saying, now I identify as a woman, so I'm going to act ditzy or something, well, now you're talking about actually upholding like a bad and harmful expectation or stereotype. So it's not really the same thing.
This is from B. Smiley the Third. It says, get him, Saanvi. This one from the Trib One says, hi, James. In the day today, I think this is for you guys, though. They say, in the day today, men and women will be, quote unquote, misgendered regularly. Does it matter? Probably depends on the level of misgendering, right? Then says, for both, when does being misgendered matter? Is it when the individual being misgendered knows? Outside of sports, sex, and medicine, does sex matter societally?
Yes.
I think maybe that one might be for me because gender might be like, I don't know, but does misgendering somebody matter? Does sex matter outside of sports, medicine, and what was the other one?
And medicine, sports, and sex.
Oh, okay, so just medicine, sports. Okay. I don't really know how to answer that. I think the whole thing with misgendering, I don't think the average non-trans person gets super harmed by misgendering them. I think they simply correct and move on. I don't think it's something they dwell on. I don't think it's something that leads to suicidality or self-harm or anything like that. But that doesn't seem to be the case for transgender individuals. They seem to take gender to be a very serious part of their identity. likely due to things like gender dysphoria, whatnot. I do not think that there would be a harm present if you didn't do it in the presence of somebody.
Oh my God.
I can't think of a way, at least, because the harm of misgendering seems to be that somebody felt their identity was violated interpersonally, but I wouldn't see how that would be a harm done behind somebody's back.
I agree, by the way. I don't know how it would be harmful. It's more of like a respect thing. Just like if I know that somebody's a Christian, I'm not harming them if behind their back I say, you know, fuck God or something. But because I respect them, I'm not going to purposely disrespect, you know, how they identify or believe or whatnot.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate it as well. Gabrielle O'Brien says, proof that man can be woman. I don't know what they mean by that. It says, James, check your email. I checked it. I didn't see anything, Gabriel. Let me know. Con the Stoner says, are adoptive parents parents? If so, why would you say trans women aren't women? And if not, doesn't it sound rude to tell a child caretaker that they are not?
Yeah, the simple answer to that is I think the definition of a parent, the definition of a father and a mother isn't necessarily biological. I think it can also be legal, right? Like you can have legal custodial guardianship over somebody and you would be exhibiting motherhood, fatherhood, parenthood. So a trans woman is not a woman because they don't fit that category. A adoptive mother is still a mother because
I don't think it's going to go on much longer.
You got it. This one from Magellan says, how can we tell the difference between a healthy perception and a mental disorder? Some people identify as a pony. Do they need help or should we embrace that too?
Absolutely not. No, this is part of the reason that I'm such a stickler about my external social construct. That's for, by the way, everybody taking a shot for every time I say social construct. I pity you out there if you're actually doing that. But this is why I'm so serious about that as well.
I have no idea. I wouldn't
that actually negates completely the crazy like neo-gender or xenogender people that are like, yeah, I identify as a horse or whatever. It's like, no, that's not a socially constructed gender identity. Gender refers to something. Gender is not just whatever you want it to be or any form of identity even, nor is it just any personality trait. It's something specific in regards to masculinity or femininity. So, no, if somebody says they identify as a pony,
say for real, how the fuck you not follow me?
No, I don't know how you have an internal perception of yourself as a pony. And also that's just not even a socially constructed gender identity.
I think Hunter's Christian.
You got it. This one coming in from Coconut Cream Pie says, is Hunter a centrist?
I mean, I'm a social democrat. I don't know if that's considered centrist online, but it's definitely more left.
This one from B Smiley III says, Saanvi is 2-0 right now. Con the Stoner Lynn says, given the difference in the brains of the sexes, would you agree it is reasonable to say trans people are neurologically intersex?
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to address this because I addressed it in my presentation and it's such a common take nowadays, right? Even Destiny mentioned something about the gendered brain account. So are they neurologically intersex? Okay, so generally when we refer to like what sex is, it has to do with our role in reproduction, but the brain account of gender is so heavily critiqued because they generally refer to like the function of the amygdala, the size of the hippocampus, and they do these brain scans to determine that trans women have brains closer to females.
Okay, word.
And the very first thing to say, it's false. Like not all trans women even have the brains close to a female. In fact, there was I think one study on this that said up to 40% didn't, and theirs aligned more with cisgendered males. And I put that in the presentation from the NIH, but a lot of studies do not confirm that hypothesis, firstly. But secondly, even if I were to accept that neurobiology has a role in determining if like you're a woman or you're a man, it would also lead to the conclusion that homosexual men can be women because their brains are often closer to female than they are male. So while I do think there might be a correlation with the feminized and masculinized brain, there could be a strong thesis for that. It's certainly not causal and not definitive and very arbitrary.
You got
if I could just weigh in really. Oh, sorry. If I could just weigh in really, really quickly, because I partially agree with that too. I think that you probably have heard me make that argument before. I'm pretty sure I've made that argument in the past before too. But Part of the reason I don't like the whole like, well, trans women's brains tend to operate more similarly to like.
This is Destiny. This isn't.
I used to compete in ballroom dancing.
Hey!
So I know
This is
all of
Destiny's
You and
wife?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you guys over here
Isn't
just
that
fucking
weird?
perfect forms.
I haven't done it in so long though.
Wait, what kind of ballroom? What are you doing?
All the 10 dances. I was
That's a
competing all of
lot.
them.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? You doing the foxtrot
My
motherfuckers? You be
favorite
like,
one? I don't know if I have a favorite one.
you ever seen
They're
her
all
dance?
very different. No, you've never seen it. I haven't done it in years, is the thing. So I'm very curious if I started. But like, I can understand. Like, if we dance, you would be able to like
Lead you.
like yeah, exactly, really well, because I would probably figure out like the basic steps and I would figure out like how to do everything.
All right,
Even though
find
no.
What?
No, we gotta no.
Uh-oh.
No. Okay.
Mel
Why
time.
did I say this?
Mel time. It's Mel
Oh,
time.
you got the form. Okay, so we're just doing salsa or just one?
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Is that okay?
There you go. Hey.
Okay. Kind of works. Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 1. 5, 6, 7, 1. 5, 6, 7. Hey, she can really do it.
Yeah, I
She
think
can
so.
really do
Really
it.
can
No,
do
don't
it.
be so
Yeah.
shy. You got this.
Because I've done it so long.
That's fine. That's fine. I can tell you were like a little bit turn. You good? Yeah. You want to know how she knew what she was doing? She did this one. That's how I knew, man. She started flexing them shoulders in the trap. I was like, oh, she's not fucking playing.
Damn. I was getting footage for his next cuck video on me. Thanks. That's what's going on here.
Oh my god, he let his wife dance with another man.
He said, "What? You want to
It
slap her
made it
next?"
sound like he was grinding or some shit. Like, yo, chill, be easy.
True. I should have turned up the R&B.
Yo, you could put a lot of crazy music
I
on
should
it.
probably try that.
Look at the look on her
For
face.
real.
What?
Like just to see, because I just need to like know the basic steps.
Yeah, but here's a lot of Cuban
stuff.
salsa.
Really well, yeah.
Here's like, so your ballroom stuff, like you probably get the rhythm quickly, but the ballroom stuff would work because Cubans be like this, maybe
Yeah,
so it's a bit different. But you definitely enjoy. There's a lot of salsa in the city, so yeah. All right,
Oh, I also realized that is it called swing?
swing dancing. Yeah, if you want to dress like you're from the '70s.
That one is also really similar to another dance called jive. If you ever heard that one.
I have. That's
They're
very
very
fast-paced.
similar. Yeah. So like when I heard the beat, I was like, wait, I get this. And then I remember I went to the park and someone was like, oh, do you want to swing? I was like, okay, I'll try. And then I realized it's very, very similar, but like a little bit different, like just a tiny bit different, but very, very similar. So it was really fun too.
Definitely think you should pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to have activities like that. That's an activity, Destiny, where it's a big time investment, but I don't mind putting the time and traveling and doing all that stuff. But I feel like the emotional reward is worth it.
Wow.
Yeah.
We dance a little bit sometimes.
Do you?
No.
When he gets really drunk or high.
Nope.
Hey, that's my time you never dance
How
ever.
mad he is.
I
Promise
suggested
Melina's probably drunk. She's never remembered correctly.
we do some mushrooms and we go
How
dancing.
mad
That's like,
he
I would
is.
never do that.
He's like, do you do it?
Nope.
It's basically just slow dancing like this. Very, very close and very, very
That's
slow.
nice. That's
To like
cool.
some nice music.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's what it is.
Destiny, why are you afraid to show your soft side? Is being lovey-dovey like disgusting to you?
The problem is that I told her mom I only did that with her, and now she's watching. She's gonna feel like cheating in those moments. So,
yeah. That male vulnerability is beautiful, Destiny.
Yeah.
You just had a conversation with Dr. Kim, needs encouragement to undo their toxic masculinity.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, you want to come at me for like my bisexual taste, but look at
True.
you. This is like in that same vein. Like, come on, bro. There's nothing wrong with it.
Are you good?
What kind of dance would you do?
What kind of dance would I like to do?
Yeah.
That's so
The
embarrassing.
brains of
That's
adult
so embarrassing.
human females
That's so embarrassing.
is because of neuroplasticity. I mean, if we're talking about somebody who identifies a
wife?
certain
Who
way
is
and
that?
who has an internal perception of themselves that more aligns with feminine cultural views of femininity, I wouldn't be surprised if their brain showed patterns where it was lighting up more at certain feminine characteristics or whatnot. The interesting one I heard was that with trans women, they did find that there was something to do with a difference in estrogen receptors. I don't know if that's the same one, if that's what they also found in the homosexual men or not, but I don't usually appeal to the brain thing just for the sake of the neuroplasticity. Yeah.
You got it. This one coming in from
Catalina. That was
Coconut
his wife.
Cream
Okay,
Pie
that's what I
strikes
thought.
again. Jeez. A big part of the politics is centered around what a woman is and does. Why are trans men a less hot topic than trans women?
Because trans men were trans men are women. You know, they were raised women. They were raised female, right? And they know, and as women, they know how to stay in their place and shut the fuck up. Trans women are men. They were raised as men, as males. They don't know how to do that because that's not what men do. So that's why trans men know their fucking place. Trans women don't.
In my opinion, it's just because of the Matt Walsh documentary. Like, isn't that what started this whole "what is a woman" thing? Because his thing was woman and not man. But I think the same applies either way. It's
Trans men. Like, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Trans men know their fucking place. Trans women want to be the main character. Trans men just want to fit in and shut the fuck up, live their life. Trans women got to be me. Like, what the fuck?
just, I think that's what led to more people saying, well, what is a woman? Because they were emulating his documentary.
Maybe some of the documentary the documentary definitely caused a
Gotta
influx of,
see
you know,
how
what is a woman.
long it takes before she passes out. I think the exact same thing during sex, Catalina.
Dorks. But the notion or the concern about trans women specifically has definitely been around before then. I think that's primarily because of a lot of the fear mongering about how trans women are going to be a risk to women's spaces and things like that. I think that it tends to pick up more if you're looking to. Honestly, I think that some people are generally concerned for like the more vulnerable members of society, but I think that it also plays very well to like a more conservative audience as well. So I think that that's more so why.
You got it. This one from Con the Stoner Lynn says, given the differences in the brains of the sexes, did I read this one already? They said, would you agree it is reasonable to say trans people are neurologically intersex?
Intersex,
Yeah,
yeah,
we-
I addressed this. Also, that is not what intersex means.
May God bless her for real. She gonna need blessing after I'm done.
Sex refers to a role in reproduction, so even though the brain is an
Trans
organism,
women are a
sexual
larger threat to womanhood than trans men are to manhood. W take.
so it wouldn't be an intersex condition. Yeah, I first mentioned that.
Yeah, get with it, connoisseur Lynn. All right, this one's the Trib one says for gender population, gender expression matters. For the general population, gender expression matters. Most societally, in my opinion, for both, would Buck Angel or Blair White be misgendered if they weren't public figures?
I do not know who Buck. Let me Hunter can answer this while I look them up. Hold on.
Would they be misgendered? Was that the question?
Yeah, who's Buck Angel? Do you know who Buck Angel is, Hunter?
Yeah, Buck Angel is a trans guy who is oftentimes used as an example of someone who you would never guess was trans.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
this person a sex worker?
Buck Angel?
Yeah, that's what comes up when I look it up.
Maybe they used to be.
I remember. I've seen Buck Angel before.
Oh, he was an American pornographic film actor.
He has more problems than being trans than going straight to hell.
Oh my
He's
God.
got
So
a
I think you're probably not being sarcastic right now, but that's a conversation for another time.
I agree that Buck looks. I'd say I wouldn't even think that they were female.
American
or,
pornographic
words wrong.
film
But
actor?
No, you're right. Biologically female. You're just correct.
this one coming in from the Trib one says for Jen. Oh, we got that one. This one from Stephen Elliott says, Hunter, what is a black person? I don't know what they're getting at here.
This is the, if I can identify as a woman, why can't I identify as black? Which really comes down to the fact that not all identities or not everything that carries with it a identity holds all of the weight, or not that the identity holds all the weight. Sorry, I'm explaining that very poorly. I recognize it. But right, the identity does not hold all of the weight. So in the case of somebody who's black, well, we would identify them, at least if we're talking about like a practical kind of way, like we're not doing like...
Listen to me. Listen to me. Don't look it up.
You know, getting all technical
Whatever you think, it's worse. Don't look it up.
here, just literally based on how we classify colors. That's not, you don't be...
Cindy, listen to me. I know you're scared, but I believe in you. You can win this.
And if I do win, George, then will you tell me what my...
You can win this.
And if I do win, George, then will you tell me what my...
You do that one more time. I'm taking a point off.
become black because you identify as black.
Oh my God.
You don't. That's not how that works. However, I would say that yes.
The criminality of men is higher than trans women. After gender affirming center, trans women criminality of men the same as men. Trans women didn't rise to the level of men. Trans men didn't lie. Oh, okay. Really? Violet Diva,
You can identify as a woman based on internal perception, where that holds the weight. You don't become black because you identify that way. It's a different concept entirely.
Oh yeah, going back to that
Can I
question.
say something about that? Some interesting things about transracialism have been floating around the philosophy of gender. If you're ever interested in reading a genuine trans inclusive activist, I recommend Rebecca Tuval wrote a paper in defense of identifying as different races. That's all.
This one coming.
Damn. Saanvi did her fucking research. Atta girl. That's what the fuck I like to see.
Going back to the original question about Buck and Blair, they said for general, they said would Buck Angel it's Angle or Angel? Angle, right? Buck. We'll just say Buck. Would Buck and Blair be misgendered if they weren't public figures?
I don't think so, especially Buck from what I just saw. I think most
No.
people would.
Yeah, I don't really know what that question's getting at, but no. I mean, they pass incredibly well. That's, yeah, no.
This one coming in from Stephen Elliott strikes again. Says, Hunter, if we accept transgender, why not transracial? This kind of came up. You already
Kind of already addressed that one, yeah.
Stephen Elliott also said, Hunter, why is blackface offensive and women face is not?
Because blackface is specifically done in a way to mock black people and degrade them based on historically and what it still occurs nowadays. Whereas you have somebody who is sincere in an internal perception.
What the fuck did I tell you to do, nigga? I told you don't look that shit up, nigga. I told you. I will bear the weight of it, okay? I can handle it, okay? I looked it up so you didn't fucking have to. And what the fuck did you do? You let curiosity get the best of you. You didn't listen to me. I'm looking out for you niggas and you did that shit to yourself, Rodden. Don't tell me what to do.
Themselves, so they are aligning themselves externally with certain...
I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling... I'm not telling you what to do, motherfucker. Okay? I'm telling you what you should do. I'm looking out for you. But you don't want to listen.
Feminine traits or characteristics. This is not... Anybody comparing these things are definitely acting in bad faith. One is designed intrinsically to mock. Another is based on a sincere identity, and there's no intention to mock, nor is it actually a mockery, whereas blackface is intrinsically a mockery.
You got it. This one from Made by Jim Bob. Past debater, good to see you. Made by Jim Bob. Says, Hunter, we have a social expectation of women.
Honestly, I've seen worse. Decapitation videos went crazy while I was going. Bro, I was a frequent viewer of r/watch people die. I've seen some fucked up shit. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's why I turned off my camera, because like I have my glasses on, so I didn't want to like reflect it on stream, and then I end up getting banned. But that's why I looked it up. I was like, I'm curious. Don't look it up.
And that includes the potential to give birth.
What was he looking up? I will tell you right now. Anybody who answers that question, you will be timed out for 60 seconds. If you answer CFB's question, you'll be timed out for 60 seconds.
On what basis ought we abandon that?
The social expectation that a woman ought to give birth. Yeah, that's really just the social expectation correlated with sex. So yeah, a lot of this does just come down to realizing that correlating it with sex is...
Yo, same. Not gonna lie, it's a shame more kids don't get traumatized. That's what I'm saying, bro. We need to start traumatizing our kids again. W take.
Not actually as functional as it could otherwise be.
Only man I
so
trust
yeah, I would
is
definitely
God,
get rid of the
amen.
notion that a woman is necessarily someone who gives birth. I would say that.
And Jesus. And also God's not a man. So the only man you should trust is your father and Jesus, because God's not a man. But yeah.
Right now.
And if anyone says Jesus is God, I'm timing you out for 30 seconds. Don't argue semantics with me.
We define a woman based on, we might say that like a woman correlates with biology still. Again, I'm not denying that, but yeah, sorry, I'm being a little long-winded there.
Not a problem.
I'm
not
denying
we have more
that.
questions, so we're still going.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's like it's taking a while to grow on me. It's taking a while to grow on me.
But so many people in chat have said this is such a deep and respectful debate. So I have to give you positive feedback, Hunter and Saanvi, that people really enjoyed this. And so yeah, a lot of applause in the live chat, no joke. And also, folks, if you enjoyed it, hit that like button. Seriously, I think it means a lot. Let me ask, especially, so Hunter, you've crossed the milestone of 500,000 subscribers, getting all the way up to 600,000. So you've got experience with YouTube. Does hitting like make a difference in the algorithm, or do you think it makes no difference?
You know what? I still to this day don't know. It forever remains a mystery.
Me too.
I always tell people to like the stream and that it helps me out. I would assume it does because just engagement.
Cosmic, you were flirting with a woman who is quite literally about 2,500 miles away from you.
Can be beneficial, but obviously the thing that YouTube judges the most is watch time minutes. How long are you spending consecutively watching the video?
Agreed. But I still think, sorry, we're a little off topic, folks, bear with me, but I really do, especially based off looking at our shorts recently, I really do think likes, at least with shorts, maybe even more so with shorts, I really do think likes make a difference. Especially because it's like, well, why would YouTube like make the effort of keeping it built into their, if it really didn't make a difference, I don't think they'd continue to even have, they would just simplify and get rid of it. So I really do think it makes a difference, folks. We do appreciate your likes. I'm a believer in the difference of likes. This one coming in from Ivan Gonzalez says she's going to end up, I think they mean Saanvi here, says she's going to end up.
You know how to...
conceding every social distinction of our understanding of gender, then still assert her conclusion of quote-unquote adult human female, and act confused. There you go. That's the argument for you. Human female understanding of gender says she's going. I really do think it makes a difference, folks. We do appreciate your likes. I'm a believer in the difference of likes. This one coming in from Ivan Gonzalez says she's going to end up, I think they mean Saanvi here, says she's going to end up conceding every social distinction of our understanding of gender, then still assert her conclusion of quote-unquote adult human female, and act confused. There you go. That's the argument for you.
Whoever said that is a fucking moron.
There wasn't an argument in there. That's just nonsense. I mean, I was
like Nostradamus. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I gave a couple arguments as to why adult human female is what we ordinarily use the term as. But even I think that it comes down to a difference in counterexamples and a difference in intuitions. Like there are certain bullets that I'm not willing to accept is the difference. Like I'm not willing to accept that newborns are analytically agender, things like that. So that's the difference, why we have a difference in the definition.
You got it. This one coming in. Do appreciate it. Made by Jim Bob strikes again. Says it. Hunter, if your wife suddenly no, that's an story. I read it. They say if your wife suddenly internally felt like she was a man, would you call her your husband and teach your kids to call her dad or not?
Well, the first thing I would do is come out as gay. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know how to answer the question. These are always bad faith questions. I don't know.
Wait.
If your wife suddenly no, that's a story.
What did he search up? Anybody anybody answers that, you're getting timed out for 60 seconds. Try me if you want.
I read it. They say if your wife suddenly internally felt like she was a man, would you call her your husband and teach your kids to call her dad or not?
Well, the first thing I would do is come out as gay. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know how to answer the question. These are always bad faith questions. I don't know.
It's a legitimate question. That is a legit, fair question. Using your logic, if your wife internally comes out as man and culturally and blah 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 blah, or is she now a man? Do you now have to say you have a husband and you have to teach your kids to call her father or dad or what? How is that a bad faith question? Oh, this nigga's stealing my Riz. He's stealing the Spanish Riz. And before you say it, Cosmic, I don't give a flying fuck if you're fluent in Spanish, okay? I don't care if technically, culturally, I'm stealing your Riz. I don't give a fuck.
If someone was like sincerely like, I'm trans, I've been struggling with gender dysphoria, I'm gonna come out and blah, blah, I'd be like, honestly, you know what? If you had a spouse who came out as trans to the degree that they were going to be undergoing like sex reassignment surgery or anything like that, I think that so long as you're not like a piece of shit to them, I actually like, you married somebody with expectations regarding sexual needs as well. So if somebody is, say, going to transition and no longer have a penis, well, it's not really fair if you were previously married to someone who you're like, well, hold on, that was kind of like the agreement here. So I actually think that if somebody is sincere in a marriage and all of a sudden wants to transition or something, I do think that it could warrant dissolving the marriage.
Would you say that if they don't undergo
He notice he didn't answer the question. Tony Spanish is cute though, very good Spanish. 3 years of Spanish. Where were you born? He's Dominican. Where the fuck do you think he was born? Just no. Cosmic, don't answer the question. Don't answer the question, Cosmic. Catalina, he's Dominican. Where the fuck do you think he was born? And give me the most stereotypical answer in America, right? Where do you think he was born? Where do you think he was raised? Knowing that he's Dominican. Be for real. I can't. Oh shit.
Medical.
The hotspot for Dominicans, New York.
Transitioning, because I think only 33 to 40% of trans women do undergo that. So like, if they didn't, would that make you gay still, or would you still stay with them?
If they were just like just said they have an internal
social transitioning, right?
Yeah, social transition. I don't know. I mean, it would definitely kind of throw me off because again, I have nothing wrong with acknowledging preferences or women in relationships. I think that having preferences.
You're not answering the questions. You're not answering the question. You're not answering the question.
Gender and sexual preferences in relationships are not actually necessarily bad, so long as those preferences aren't harmful in some other way. But it would really just depend. I don't know.
You didn't answer the question.
I feel like
I swear to God, you could say New York is the hotspot for any one group. No. Like specific groups, Trinidadians, Dominicans, right? It's New York. I'm sorry to say, it's New York. I'm sorry.
Those questions more. I'm not saying that question was definitely bad faith, but a lot of the times they're asked by people who are just trying to be like, I don't know, get some kind of perceived hypocrisy.
Juicy. Simon Allen says, does Hunter think Saanvi is smart?
Brilliant.
Wow. This one from me by Jim.
I think the same of Hunter.
She's saying that to be nice. She's saying that to be nice. Jamaicans for sure, bud. Jamaicans for sure. Wait, she's saying that to be nice. Look at her face.
Brilliant.
Look at her face.
Wow. This one from me by Jim.
I think the same of Hunter.
Maybe.
She's not being honest. She's not being honest.
By Jim.
Oh, I was being sarcastic, but that just shows how brilliant I am because now you just complimented me. So thank you. Wow.
I have to also say, since she came up, Hunter's wife, Carissa, has helped modern day debate so much. No joke. A lot of people don't know this. Carissa, well, some of you recognize, you remember, Carissa used to be a guest mod for us a ton, which helped me a ton, especially when I was on a travel. So anyway, Carissa, Hunter, if you can say thank you to Carissa for me, for all of us, you'd be grateful. I mean, you're cool too. But this one coming in from me by Jim Bob says, Hunter, if a man presents as a woman and is pursued by a man who eventually finds out it's a biological male, isn't that misrepresenting?
It's not misrepresenting if someone else pursues you. However, if you are, say, like in a bar and you're presenting very feminine, but you have biological...
I can change his mind, Bea. No te preocupes. No te preocupes. I don't know what preocupes means. Is that problem? No, that's problem. No. Jamaicans are deaf in New York. I'm Jamaican. I gotta have my family there. My dad said he hates Dominicans is wild. Wait, what does that word mean? Am I stupid? Worry. Worried. That makes sense.
Male trait or male characteristics. Anytime you start doing something sexual.
His wife is slobbing on the host knob. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think that you should disclose that. I think that it's really uncalled for if you're, especially if it's gotten to a point where you're like going back to the room with the person or something. It's like, again, it doesn't justify. Like, some people freak out and beat
I forgot.
A lot of people.
I forgot. Y'all don't pronounce U's the same. Forgot.
Whatever, like that's obviously crazy, but like you need to.
Facts. They be saying "bati boy" on the top of they.
Disclose that before engaging in something really sexual with somebody, I would say. But just if it's
is that how you spell that? Is it Batty?
You're being pursued? No, you don't need to just like tell everybody you're trans. But if it's going to be relevant, like a sexual engagement, yeah, you should disclose that.
This one coming in from Just want to say, I want to say Hunter's been a huge help to the channel too. So for real, I wasn't trying to snub you there, Hunter. Seriously, we appreciate you. We've had Hunter on.
I didn't feel snubbed at all. It's
okay, good. I just wanted to be sure because this one from Truth Seeker says, "How does each person define a woman?" So, if you guys feel like we covered this enough,
I feel like we did cover this.
Yeah, I'm so done with this.
I think we repeated it like many times.
Just especially the Matt Walsh documentary. The one girl who was like, "Do chickens commit suicide?" There was some lady who asked about chickens committing suicide.
I saw that.
Yeah, we went over that on stream, and it was just, oh man, cringe fest of like a compilation of the worst arguments. It was really quite fun.
Well, this one from Coconut Cream Pie says, "We got some simps in here." The Trib One says, "My donos illustrate that people don't care enough about the sex of someone in day-to-day society. Adult human female equals woman misses the boat." And that was the person who had said earlier, their super chats were saying, the one in particular I think they're referring to is when they were saying, is it for both, when does being misgendered matter? And in the day-to-day, men and women will be misgendered regularly, does it matter? This one coming in from the Dockinator says, "Hunter is manly and my king." Wow.
I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm not gonna say nothing.
Rob, is that one of Carissa's sock accounts? Dockinator says,
"Wait, the Twitch mod can recognize Butty Boy? That's crazy."
"Hunter is manly and my king."
Finally, somebody recognizes it.
Yes. Robski says, "Hunter is number one." Wow, the Hunter fans are showing up in droves here. All right, that's all right. This one coming in from, we only have a few more. We'll get you guys out of here. I know it's getting late, especially on the East Coast, Hunter. So bear with me. This one from, yes, and the Pacific Coast. It's like 6. But this one from this one from Web Picton Hardcastle says, "When a trans girl commits suicide, is it counted towards the male or female numbers? Men lead the numbers."
Interesting. As far as I'm concerned, it is counted towards what is on your birth certificate. There's recently something that happened in the UK with a trans girl committing suicide, and in the birth certificate, it still had said male, so there was a lot of outrage about that. I'm assuming the same applies for the United States.
You got it. This one coming in from, wait, can I ask a question? This is a pretty neutral question. I rarely do this, but it is something interesting that I have to ask. And like I said, I don't think it really challenges either side more than the other. Someone earlier asked, there's so much focus on trans women, but very, very rarely on trans men. It seems, and I don't know if this is like, I've heard the numbers are actually the same in terms of numbers of trans men and numbers of trans women. However, in terms of like the popular names, it seems to me that there are like way more that I know of that happen to be trans women.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought that too, but guess what? Studies show they're about equal.
That's what I heard. So I'm trying to figure out what popular names. It seems to me that they're like the same in terms of numbers of trans men and numbers of trans women. However, in terms of like the popular names, it seems to me that there are like way more that I know of that happen to be trans women.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought that too, but guess what? Studies show they're about equal.
That's what I heard. So I'm trying to figure out, why is it that I just, for some reason,
man lifted his arm to look like SpongeBob flexing? Who did that? Did I do that? Okay, like I'm literally gonna have to fucking. I don't know what nuestro means. Our love is. Unbreakable.
Is it just me? Does everybody else you feel like is?
Yeah, and you know what? I thought that too, but guess what? Studies show they're about equal.
That's what I thought it could be trans women. Someone earlier asked, there's so much focus on trans women, but very, very rarely on trans men. It seems, and I don't know if this is like, I've heard the numbers are actually the same in terms of numbers of trans men and numbers of trans women. However, in terms of like the popular names, it seems to me that there are like way more that I know of that happen to be trans women.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought that too, but guess what? Studies show they're about equal.
That's what I heard. So I'm trying to figure out, why is it that I just, for some reason, is it just me? Does everybody else you feel like, is it that the media picks up on trans women's stories more, or is it that trans women are maybe allegedly, maybe Hunter, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Some might say, well, maybe trans women are, kind of challenged or targeted more regarding their gender identity. I don't know. What do you guys?
I think it really just comes back down to like the whole Leah Thompson thing or was it Thomas thing was another great example, right? Of where it's like the concern about women's spaces specifically. And I think that's just because people aren't as concerned. I think about like male swimmers competing against someone who's biologically.
Yeah, because women get fucking dick down, dominated, and destroyed. Women can't compete with men physically. Nobody gives a fuck, right? Like no man, like most men are not gonna feel uncomfortable. Like, oh my god, there's a woman in my locker room. Like they're gonna feel uncomfortable for her, not for themselves, right? Like apparently, like Leah Thomas got like a big dong. You know what I'm saying? So like that nigga like gets butt ass naked with his fucking ding-a-ling a fling. gets fucking, they get, he gets butt ass naked with his ding-a-ling and flinging around a bunch of women, and it just makes him uncomfortable.
Female, but has been like taking testosterone. I just don't think that that's got the same potential.
No, I didn't say dick down and destroyed. No, if you're gonna quote me fucking right. Dick down, dominated, and destroyed. Thank you.
Problem there. So I think that's really what it comes down to, which is again why it's important to have these nuanced conversations. I think something I wish that a lot of conservative
the 4 Ds, yeah, bitches with triple Ds and my big ass dick.
Could recognize that you can be in support of trans people as far as like the philosophical.
We devolved from as far as, like, the original strong protect the weak. Yes, and we devolved from that because women wanted to be seen equal as men, and that includes physically, but they can't physically protect themselves.
The validity of trans people's gender identity, but then also recognize that, like, if you go through a male testosterone or a male puberty, it's probably unlikely that you're going to be able to compete against I hate saying cisgender women. I know it's kind of a buzzword, but like against other women, because you might have an unfair advantage. Like, I'm sorry, the studies also show that you do actually you might retain some of that strength. So like, it's okay to say, hey, some of these issues, like the sports issue, really nuanced, but that doesn't mean that trans people aren't valid necessarily. And I do wish more people could distinguish those things instead of getting so caught up in what almost seems like a distraction.
You got it. This one coming in from Weppington Hardcastle. You got that one. Lord Stannis says, how long did gender dysphoria exist before we knew about it? Is it exclusive to humans? Also, are all the dictionaries wrong about their definition of a man?
I'm assuming that one might be for me. How long has gender dysphoria existed before we knew about it? I'm not sure about that one. Probably a long time, right? Although we have seen a rise in it, but I'm sure it's existed for a very long time. Same thing with anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia. All of these things existed before we had the APA and the DSM to put terms and medical labels on it for us. What was the second part of that question?
Second part was, are all the dictionaries wrong about their definition of a man?
I'm not quite sure what that would mean. Wrong. Like, definitions are descriptive, and what are they referring to when they say are all the definitions dictionaries wrong? I'm not sure. I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate it, The Unwanted Man. Very sad to say, does Hunter think women have prostates? Does removing it make you a woman?
Some women can have prostates. Removing it or not would not make you a woman or not make you a woman.
This one coming in from Stephen Elliott says, I'm ethnically white but was born and raised in Africa and speak an African language. If I internally felt black, how would that be different from someone who is transgender?
Because the internal perception doesn't hold the weight. That doesn't make you, in this case, black. Just like an internal belief about certain or regarding Christianity or Jesus Christ, right, is what makes you the Christian. But that doesn't mean that you can just say, I'm going to believe that I'm an astronaut, and I'm an astronaut. There are limitations here. Some things are self-ID, some things are not. So in the case of race, you might have certain.
Come una galleta de camara, mi amor. So what I'm gonna do is every time this nigga types something, I got Google Translate right there. Eat a cookie, it will calm you down, my love. Like a cookie? Come. Comer. Why is it come? Why is it not comer? Where's the R?
A certain identity.
I will say conjugations for other fucking for Spanish is so fucking hard.
That is formed based on some cultural norms, like racial or cultural norms or whatnot. But no, that's not what makes you black.
It's a command.
This one from.
So because it's a command, you take away the R? No, I got it. But like, why is it come instead of comer?
Jacob, don't have too many left. This one, they say Hunter should really chill with the subtle jabs and blatant insults when that wasn't warranted through this debate. I don't remember.
What blatant insult?
Were there? I was pretty focused on the chat. Look at Saanvi's face. Okay, so.
Did I feel like I blatantly insulted you?
No. I mean, no, it's okay.
This one from B Smiley.
I don't take orders from Dominicans.
A channel. That's right. Saanvi, you should think about YouTube. I mean, it's.
I know,
what about blacks,
I've been really
Catalina?
putting it off, but I wanted to start on platforms besides TikTok. So maybe I will soon.
You got it. Shane the Pain says.
Fucking wild.
You can just read it.
I like instantly stop.
I'm like curious.
Even I feel awkward because at some point it's like, okay, they say if any trans woman looks as beautiful as Saanvi, I'd call them a woman. So there, are you happy now, Saanvi? This is what unsubscriber says. Hunter, trans women must sign up for the U.S. military draft. Do you think they should be excluded like real women?
I think that women should have to sign up.
You got it?
Yeah, we should all equally be.
Her ancestors took orders from mine.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but they're not Dominican.
Juicy.
That's how I pay my reparations. Wait, Catalina, you said you don't take orders from Dominicans. What about blacks?
Even Zavascki
take orders
says,
from blacks?
No. Well, I mean, it's technically it's not hitting on you. They say, well, I mean, a little politically incorrect. They ask, what is Saanvi's ethnicity?
Oh, that's fine. I'm South Asian and
Gotcha.
Punjabi.
You got it. Seville says, if you think trans women are women, would you actively date and have sex with them if you were single, Hunter? If not, are you transphobic?
Would I actively date and have sex with some? What was the first part of that?
They said, would you actively date and have intercourse with them?
I'm a
if you were single,
dashing.
Hunter?
You say dashing
Not,
one
it's a
more
trans
time.
woman?
Yeah, if it's a trans woman, like, are you going to do it?
No. Nope. nor is it inconsistent whatsoever.
My starter pack, Violet Diva. What are you on?
Sexual characteristics.
Okay, what if they were post-operative though? Like,
okay, if they were actually post-op to the point that there was like no difference, then yeah, I would. Sure, why not?
This nigga's gay. This nigga's gay.
That makes you homosexual, FYI. Still.
Really? If that makes you wait, having sex with somebody who has a vagina and tits makes you homosexual? It's gayer to fuck a fleshlight.
If it's male on male, it's homosexual.
No. It would be gayer to fuck a fleshlight at that point. Wait, male on male. So if one of those girls in Denmark who have the male chromosomes get married, and then
oh my god, here we go again, bro.
Her husband has sex with her. Does that mean that means
sex?
Okay.
Is TikTok down?
I'm sorry, but it would be gayer to fuck a fleshlight. Let me just leave it at that.
This one.
It would be gayer to fuck a fleshlight? This nigga's gay. You're gay. You're gay. Like what?
Appreciate your question. Oh, okay. So they also asked though, is it transphobic that you say no?
No, it's not. Anybody saying it's transphobic.
Bro, Catalina Babe is giving me filthy monkey vibes with this Dominican hate. Freeze.
Not sleep with trans people or whatever. People that's hopefully is more often than not.
No, he isn't. He just doesn't want to get canceled, so he switched teams. That sounds gay.
Strikes again. Coconut cream pie says we got some simps. This one coming in from. Hey, I got
depends on who made the fleshlight. Catalina, why are you avoiding my question? No. Catalina, why are you avoiding my question? Catalina, why are you avoiding my question? You said you don't take orders from Dominicans. What about blacks?
The question that the super chatter asked, because I'm just curious. I think modern day debate tonight, it really does depend on the night. Like if Vosh is here, the chat will actually lean more to the left politically. And tonight, it just so happens that Saanvi, I think you have an unofficial like following at modern day. They recognize you and they're like, they enjoy you. And Hunter, they enjoy you too, don't worry. But
no, it's okay.
I'm listen to you. What do you think? That's not what I asked. I want you to answer the question, not to zoom in.
Pretty strongly on this channel, which is always fun because I have the modern day debate chat up on my stream all the time too, because we always like to read the chat just full of inbreds coping and seething. It's always a lot of fun.
You hear that, folks?
Dominicans are black. No, Dominicans are not black. Dominicans don't claim black. You don't get to claim black when it's fucking convenient. Listen to me, motherfucker.
You inbreds, people. Okay, so coming in. They say if you were single. Oh, this was the question I asked the chat, and so I think that it's leaning toward the right tonight. So I would guess that it would be skewed that they would say no. The question is, would you, if you're a dude, date or intercourse with a trans woman? And right now, it's 67% say no. So like I said, you probably guess that it's given its right leaning tonight. And 16% say yes, 7% say unsure, and 10% say I don't care. I'm a self-deluded soy boy. So pretty 68% now say no. I'm wondering how much different. We'll do this when Vosh or Destiny are here, especially Vosh.
I'd be interested to actually see that. I want to see if there's any numbers on that.
Yeah, I would wonder. Especially, it's really interesting. Does it differ by political party to a meaningful extent? Right. I would guess it would, but at the same time, like I don't know. I like
Dominicans.
Say no.
Right, they have a more reasonable take. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I tend to be crazy.
Dominicans hate niggas.
It's one of my many gifts.
You have a way with people. This last question is that, okay, I agree, Hunter. When it comes to the stories you hear of, the sports explanation makes sense. Namely, that people are worried of men transitioning to women, going into women's sports. There's going to be a discrepancy in ability level because of, you could say, residual maleness.
I feel like Saanvi's profile picture does not do her justice. Honestly, like I've really never found, I've never found Saanvi that attractive because I think her profile picture doesn't do her justice. And I've really never like sat down and like watch. I mean, I granted I did watch one of her debates. But like now that I can see like her actual full-on fate like at a better angle, Saanvi's actually very, very pretty.
And I could be wrong about this. I've heard about Buck Angel before actually. But like let's say content creators or celebrities, I can name so many that are trans women. Blair White. Okay, now it's hard. What's the name of the one she's got like 1 million subs? Vosh, like sometimes they have like
Contra
points, yeah. And I know I can think of more, but it seems that Blair White. It seems like did I already name Blair? I can't remember. I think I did. But the point is it just me or does it seem like the celebrities, oftentimes for some reason, trans women are in the spotlight more, even of celebrities, so like not sports context.
Better hope Shelly's not watching right now.
It might be a coincidence.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not attracted. I'm not attracted to fucking
I think it might be
Saanvi.
I think there's honestly, I don't want to speculate because there's no way of
she's Catholic. Oh, L.
Really knowing, but like I could see an argument being made that there is partially like not saying
Dominicans are the lowest denominators of Hispanics. Okay, listen, I understand that this is an outside perspective. I am not giving my own opinion on this. Okay. But from what I have heard from my Hispanic friends, it is not Dominicans, it's Mexicans. And the only reason why, there's plenty of reasons, but the main reason why is because non-Mexicans are sick and tired of being called Mexican. Like, the way that I've heard it explained to me, this is not my opinion, this is what I've heard. They say that Mexicans are like the black people of Latin America. That's what I've heard. Hate me if you want, I'm only reiterating what I've heard. Okay? Hate me if you want. MX. What is that? What is that? Is that a taco? What is that?
There's definitely a portion of people that tend to fetishize
grandma
trans women
said
sometimes. And I
no.
think that you'll see, especially the very famous trans women like Blair White, tend to fit very nicely into that archetype. and
Angel,
also
that's a
pass over.
W.
I mean, like, Blair White
Is that the first message that Cam has sent? I know for a fact that is not the first message that Cam has sent where he's talking about fucking Catholicism.
She doesn't just look at women, she looks like a very
Motherfucker!
beautiful woman. So I think that there is something to be said there, but of course I'm not saying everybody who follows them is fetishizing them. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just that I think that also plays a role.
It's an
What
element.
is
I
that?
think you're right. I do think it's an element. So I think that's at least a factor. And this one from Ben Rook. This may be the last one for the night. They say, do you think it would be...
Wait, Cosmic, how old are you, by the way? Cosmic, how old are you, by the way?
better for
I know
society
that you're
and
younger
trans
than
people
me.
if we honored and reinforced gender stereotypes, or if we've headed toward a society where these stereotypes were not as important in defining
I
one's
was
gender.
lurking. I hate you.
Well, absolutely the latter.
I'm
We've already
20.
headed that direction.
Yeah, Cosmic, let me just say right now, I'm not going to, I won't tell you her age. That's not my responsibility. I'm going to tell you right now that will not work. That's all that I'm going to say.
Not to mention we already are aware.
I'm not going to say her age in reference to mine. If she wants to tell you her age, you can ask and she can reveal that to you. I'm not going to do that. I can just tell you it won't work.
Gender expectations that can be really harmful just for the overall well-being of men, women, family units, etc.
You got it?
Yeah, I think if we, didn't have all these societal expectations and norms of what it means to entail to be a woman, I don't think the gender theorists would have much of a case that a trans woman is a woman. So I'd be fine with it.
There are plenty of the more traditional.
Honored and reinforced. This one from Ben Rook. This may be the last one for the night. They say, do you think it would be better for society and trans people if we honored and reinforced gender stereotypes, or if we've headed toward a society where these stereotypes were not as important in defining one's gender?
Well, absolutely the latter. We've already headed that direction. Not to mention we already are aware of plenty of the more traditional gender expectations that can be really.
I guess time to clarify. You can ask her. I'm not reveal. That's not my place to do. That's not my job to reveal. Mexican women always have
for the
kids.
overall well-being of men, women, family units, etc.
Is it because I'm Mexican?
Yeah, I think if
Catalina,
we,
do you have? Wait, I don't know. Catalina, do you have
norms
kids?
of what it means to entail to be a woman. I don't think the gender.
I swear to God, Angel's racism never comes out like as evidently until he starts talking about Hispanics. Then that fucking conquistador, like that Spaniard, comes out real fucking fast.
Theorists would have much of a case that a trans woman is a woman. So I'd be fine with it.
You got it. Well, let me just check one last time if we had any others. I think we just had one. This is from Grace Thorpe. Have you made friends yet, Hunter? With Grace?
Oh.
From Grace Thorpe?
That's right.
Um,
AKA Doan.
What was her donation?
She said correction. Actually, she says correction, Saanvi. It wouldn't be gay, G-H-E-Y.
Catalina, you
If
gonna
Hunter
tell him
had
your
intercourse
age, or you
with a
just gonna
trans
fucking
woman,
sit on
he
it?
himself is a trans man. Wow, Grace, come on.
Yes.
That's perfectly
Checkmate
hetero.
conservatards.
Say, by the way,
Conservative
I beat you. Why? She said correction. Actually, she says correction, Saanvi. It wouldn't be gay, G-H-E-Y, if Hunter had intercourse with a trans woman, as he himself is a trans man. Wow.
No, honestly, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think, Catalina, say right now how old you are. I won't say it, but I'm telling you, say how old you are right now. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm willing to concede. I'm in the middle. Okay, I am playing both sides here. If you are a man and you fuck a trans woman, you're gay. If you're a man and you fuck a trans man, you're gay. I don't care. But Tony, that's not consistent. I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Grace, come on.
Yes.
That's perfectly hetero.
Checkmate
Catalina, age.
conservatards.
Say, by the way,
Correct.
I beat you last debate.
She's... Nigga. What word was this supposed to be? She's wits overly underage or like 50. I'm not gonna tell you how old. Bushido, I know that you trolling.
Wow.
Is that what Grace said?
Juicy. Let me check if there are any last ones. I think that was the last one, but wow, Grace, feisty. I appreciate it. This last one just came in. Bryce F says trans women aren't biological women, but the real question is how much to respect trans people. Everyone deserves respect. Saanvi's.
Can you DM me? Are you asking a woman to DM you? Yo, Cosmic, you're Hispanic, brother. You should know you don't do that. Either you slide in the DMs and shoot your shot, or it's not gonna happen. You can't ask a Latina to DM you. What?
QT.
She's got to be 16 or 28. I'm not revealing anything. Catalina, give me the age right now. You're timed out for 60 seconds.
Hi to yeah, I don't cutie.
Wait,
but
how are you guys
QT?
seeing these questions?
Actually, in fact,
This is on the Modern Day Debate live chat.
Okay.
It says QTP2T.
I'm typing in
Thank
your
you.
username right now.
Somebody's a Q-tip.
Time out. How does
By
this
the way,
work?
folks, Right now, Modern Day Debate is live streaming. Come on over here and vote in our poll. Which side did you find more persuasive tonight? I always tell people this isn't super meaningful because to a significant degree in every debate I've noticed, people just vote for the side they already
She's
believe in.
29.
So
She told me
it's not
the
that
day.
meaningful, but it is fun. So come on over here, vote on Modern Day Debate's poll. We appreciate your feedback, your voting, your engagement, all that stuff. Thank you guys for hitting like as well. If you haven't shared this debate, consider maybe you got a friend out there that likes these topics. Share this debate with them. Saanvi, or
Should I
Saanvi.
answer that question though about the respecting trans people even though they're not biological?
If I get to the end of this video, then your time's out.
I think this question is pretty touchy.
Are you the
I
Texas
personally do
type
respect
Mexican or the from Mexico type Mexican?
everybody.
Honestly, let's be real. Cam. Be for real for a second. That's the same thing, brother.
But with that being said, I do not tell falsehoods. I will not lie about what I believe, right? I think you don't need to go out of your way to be incredibly cruel to anybody. But if somebody asks you, like, do you think my identity is valid? You should not bend the knee for fear of bad consequences. Always tell the truth.
Juicy. This one coming in from Shane the Pain says, Hunter, what would you say about a trans woman using the girls' restroom at an elementary school?
Catalina.
I would say, what's
You
the
know what I
point
need
of
you
asking
to
about
do?
this specific hypothetical other than to try and gesture to some kind of a fear tactic when they've done studies, for example,
Catalina.
they did some criminal
Don't
data
play with
collection. I think it was the state of Massachusetts before and after they enacted public gender-inclusive restrooms and even locker rooms. And they found that there was actually no correlation with any increase of sexual assault, rape, or harassment reports in regards to
I mean, you could be the Cali Mexican.
Not to mention
Cali Mexican's different. Cali Mexican different. Texas Mexican and Mexican Mexican, those are the same thing.
actually based on data collected.
Cali Mexican can be the same thing if you a Mexican Mexican, but at that point you're a Mexican Mexican who just lives in California, right? But Texas Mexican and Mexican Mexican, regardless, it's the same fucking thing.
It also found that tends to be trans
Drinking.
people, trans girls specifically, and not non-binary people actually, trans people, when they're forced to use the bathroom that doesn't align with their gender identity, they are actually at a higher risk of being victimized rather than being perpetrators of violence. So just a couple facts to put over those feelings for you there, pal. Thank you for the final donation. And James, thanks so much for hosting, and Saanvi, thank you so much for the debate.
Thank you.
Great conversation, and I will see you all later. See you.
Pleasure was all mine. Take care, Hunter. Thanks very much for being with us tonight. And they Ben Rook clarified, they said, I figured out the acronym. It means cutie patootie. Thank you, Ben, for that. Okay, this one. I think that's it. So we got that last one in. But want to say thank you very much. Is Hunter still with us? It's frozen.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, you are? I thought you left already. What have you got, Saanvi?
Oh, I still have a little bit of time, but if there's no more questions, then thank you so much.
That is actually it for the questions. I'm going to double check right now, but I
Okay.
think we did get them all. So I want to say thanks, folks, for all of your questions. I'm going to be back in just a moment with a post-credit scene letting you know about upcoming debates. So stick around for that. One last thank you to Hunter and Saanvi. Check out their links in the description below. Even if you disagree, folks, there's a value to clearly and you could say authentically understanding somebody else's position. It's really sad when you reject it based off of a caricature of their position. So
Oh,
look at
Catalina.
that you disagree with even. And then last one.
3 years older than
sorry,
Isaac.
sorry.
Ah, there
Well,
you
thanks for the
go.
support,
Okay.
Shane. So I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you very much. Hunter and
Thank
Saanvi, it's
you.
been a true
Isaac's
pleasure. Have a great
24.
rest of your
Isaac
night.
is not 24. I am 24. Okay. I was born in Sinaloa. All right, so my thoughts on that debate. That shit was garbage, bro.